What's good, everybody, out in Irish Breakdown Land? I'm Vince D'Addario. That is Ryan Roberts, and we are here to discuss what I suppose is called a football game that we all just witnessed between Notre Dame and Louisville. It was, let's just put it this way, Ryan. I had one of the worst weeks of my life, and then I got to watch this.
Yep.
I was really hoping for some good news, at least, kind of sit back, relax, enjoy it. And that really from kickoff on, it was ugly.
Yep.
It was ugly. And, as in the immortal words of our boss, Brian Driscoll, we are not going to put lipstick on a pig here. And it was just a bad performance all around. And we've got plenty of bad to go around. And we're going to kind of stick to a script here, folks. We're going to talk kind of big picture. And then we're going to talk offense, then we're going to talk defense, and then we're going to wrap it up with super chat. So, excuse me, if you want to get a super chat in, we will cover that at the end. And I was not wearing the white hoodie, by the way. I went gray today. I wasn't feeling white. Maybe that's why Notre Dame looked like
you look
crap.
great in anything you wear, Vince. You look great.
Ryan, you're adorable. So we're gonna dive into this thing. I got pages and notes here. We're gonna get after it. If Brian is able to fight traffic and get back to the hotel in time, he'll join us. But I don't think that's going to happen based on the frivolity that is probably taking place down in Louisville, Kentucky, right about now. So, Ryan, let's just dive into this thing. Initial thoughts on the whole thing. Let's go big picture here. Your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, without going deep into offense, defense, or special teams, this was a disheartening performance. I mean, from pretty much from start to finish, like you said, Vince. But Notre Dame had a lot of chances early in this football game.
Yeah.
A whole lot of chances, right? And it was one of those situations where they didn't capitalize on any of the opportunities they had. And then in the second half, when Louisville captured all the momentum, they never let it back and they steamrolled you. I mean, it was disheartening in the worst sense of disheartening. Like losing to Ohio State on the last play of the game was disheartening because you were so close to victory against a really good football team. This was disheartening because you knew on paper you were the more talented football team. Yes, you had to go to Louisville. You had to go in a hostile environment, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you were a more talented team on paper, and they outworked you. Yeah. They outworked you. They wanted it a whole lot more than Notre Dame did. And when Notre Dame's got against the wall, they didn't fight back. They didn't punch back. Like that was my biggest takeaway of tonight was Louisville was the more hungry, aggressive team that wanted to be there, wanted to win the football game. They punched them in the mouth and they kept punching. And Notre Dame didn't punch back. That was the biggest thing for me. Like it was just one of those disheartening performances because when another team grabs momentum, you need to fight back as hard as possible to regain that momentum and capture it yourself and then ride on into the sunset. Notre Dame didn't do that tonight. They got outworked. They got outpunched pretty much from the start. But the second half especially, all the momentum was on Louisville's side, and Notre Dame didn't have a counterpunch at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think, the color analyst for the game, the Rodgers kid, I think is that Aaron Rodgers' brother? I want to say
Jordan Rodgers. Yep.
Yeah.
Former
Wasn't
Vanderbilt.
Wasn't he a bachelor or something? No, that was Palmer.
No. You are correct. He was a quarterback at Vanderbilt, and then he was on The Bachelor. So you are correct.
There we go. Yep. Yes. Okay. So I thought so. But anyway, he didn't do a very good job. He was not very well prepared. He called Zeke Coral at one point. Like it was just bad. Yes. But he got one thing right. And that's the reason I'm bringing him up because I don't normally do this. He got one thing right. Louisville was more physical. They came and they punched Notre Dame in the mouth, and Notre Dame didn't have a response. And frankly, that was on both sides of the ball. I came into this game, and I am a man enough to admit when I'm wrong. I didn't think there was any chance that Notre Dame was going to allow Louisville to run the ball the way that they did. I thought, they're going to make, Plummer beat them. And if that's the case, he's going to be the one to throw 3 interceptions, not Sam Hartman, right?
Well,
I mean, that was...
Vince, that was the most frustrating part of the game, I think, actually. And I mean, obviously, we'll talk about that defensively, but Louisville, up until this point, had been a boomer bust offense. Like I called them feast or famine all week because it's like Jabari Thrash and Jordan, the running back, like they're big play weapons. But like Jordan, for instance, it's like he has some games where he is actually super explosive because he has 1 or 2 long runs. And there's games like he had last week against NC State where he can't get anything going because he just isn't that efficient runner. But tonight, Notre Dame made him an efficient runner. Like he was just like, it was no huge run. Like it wasn't any huge runs. It was just 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, 17. Like it was just like that type of outing all night. And man, Notre Dame just was not. They weren't good tonight, guys. They were really bad. But it was an all around bad, which we'll talk about on every side of the ball, right?
Yes.
It's impossible to give out game balls this week. It's hard to even find much positive out of this game. From a coaching staff perspective, from a player perspective, this was a bad game. It was a poor showing. I mean, there's no skidding around that at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it was poor showing from coaching on down, right? I mean, I thought the game plan on the offensive side was not good, and we're going to jump into that, obviously, at some point. Execution was bad in multiple places. You know, I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around, and of course, the buck stops with Marcus Freeman, and, you know, we're going to start having that conversation, right? I mean, look, I'm not in favor of firing Marcus Freeman or anything like that, but I think that the conversation of, you know, I think it's been 2 straight weeks where this team hasn't been prepared to play, whether it's been from a fire and excitement standpoint or a game plan standpoint offensively. Like they weren't ready. They weren't ready to play, and it showed in a lot of ways, right? So, you know, we have to at least start broaching the topic of, is Marcus Freeman the right guy? Is he who he thought he was, right? Is he the guy to take Notre Dame to the next step? And that's a bigger question that, of course, you know, we can get to, but, you know, big picture items, right? College football playoff, done.
Yeah.
The 30 game ACC win streak, done.
That's done too. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right.
All of it, like all of those big picture items, they're done. They're gone. They're over. And so now we have an issue with the way Marcus Freeman has prepared this team. But how do you prepare this team moving forward? Like, what's next? Like, what do you still? I know this. I'm going to start sounding like the chat, but like, what do you have left to play for this year? You've got pride. You've got all of those things. You want to win every time you're out there. You know, best this team can do is 10-2, right? And so now you're shooting for a college, you know, a New Year's Six bowl. Like, how disappointing is that? And you still have 2 out of your 3 biggest games ahead of you in USC, even though USC apparently is getting beat right now. I normally have my other monitor, but I don't want to watch any more college football. I'm college football out at the moment.
You're done.
I'm done. Like, I'm done. And so, you know, you got a lot of tough teams in front of you, right? And so 10-2, I don't know how I feel about that right now. And then coming into this season, that was the floor. Like, I was like, oh, you know what? 10-2 is going to be a disappointment. It's October 7th, and I'm disappointed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Big picture, this is not a great place to be, you know, 7 games into the season.
It is not. It is not. We had high expectations for the season, right? And, you know, I had predicted 11-1, I think, before the season had started. So, I mean, we're now below the threshold of my prediction in that sense. But, I mean, ultimately, this is my frustration, Vince, mainly, is that you've coached football, obviously, for a long time. Like, you know that the really good football teams, the great football teams, this is how it usually trends. It's always a exponential growth throughout a season, right? Usually you have your first couple games, you're still kind of figuring it out, find identity. Mid-season, you start to really kind of get it, right? And then by the time playoffs come around, you're peaking at the right time. Yeah. Well, Notre Dame's trip so far this season has been a 4-game stretch against some inferior opponents. Look great. You're pretty high already.
Well, awesome. NC State is they haven't looked great, but they're at least a good defense, right? I mean,
hey, they played the team that Notre Dame lost to tonight a lot closer than Notre Dame did. Yes, so I mean,
yeah, right.
It's gross. It's gross to think about, but it is a factual thing. I mean, but after that 4 games, then you go against Ohio State, and it's like, you know, offense, you know, they stagnate, but it's also like you played pretty well against Ohio State. You had a chance to win the game at the end.
Sure.
But then coming into the Duke game, you looked bad against Duke for the most part, got to squeak out a victory. and then you look bad against Louisville again. So my question is that a team that should be built off every single year of exponential growth? What is this team right now? Like, did they plateau in game 4 of this season? I don't understand exactly what happened here, but there is a issue with this program right now based upon this game we just watched, because there is no exponential growth. There isn't like consistent a little bit every single game of greater understanding of how we need to play football and what we're good at and what our identity is. I still don't know what Notre Dame is offensively right now. After we just play 7 games. After 7 games, I have no idea what this team is. That's an issue. That's a problem. It needs to be fixed. And I don't know how it's going to be fixed. I don't know what the answer is. I don't have those answers for everyone out there, unfortunately. But an answer needs to be found at some point, because there is an issue there. There's a big issue there.
I mean, I don't know how else to expound on that. There's a huge issue across the board. These kids weren't ready to play. I mean, they just weren't ready to play, and what they were ready to do, they couldn't execute it. Right? I mean, the offensive game plan that they had was not executed. Call it what it is. The offense has looked bad or stagnant or mediocre or less than mediocre for 3 games straight now. Like, it is not a one-off at this point, right? You could say, okay, well, Ohio State, they're playing against a good defense. They scored enough points to be in the game, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. That could be a one-off. Well, then you go to Duke and you kind of lay an egg offensively and you barely win. You made the plays that you needed to at the end to win the game, sure, but you weren't scoring points, right? And now you come into this game and, I mean, wow. Like, when Spencer Schrader is your offensive powerhouse and walk-on Faison is your, only touchdown scorer until garbage time, right? Like, what are you even supposed to say to that? Like, I mean, the offense was putrid. They're putrid, right? Yep. I mean, they were just bad. They were really, really bad. Sam Hartman came off of his worst game of the season against Duke and was like, nope, hold my beer. I can play worse. Don't worry. And so,
and it wasn't all his fault.
No, and I'm not saying that it was. I'm not saying that it was, but there were opportunities that he had that he didn't take, and then there were opportunities that he had that he missed. I mean, throwing that ball over Mitchell Evans' head for another pick. I mean, I don't necessarily blame him for the first pick. We'll get into that. I don't want to go down that road yet. But
you're good.
Yep. So big picture, there's issues, right? And first 8 games of the season, I would have loved to have a bye in there someplace. So there's, like I said, there's blame to go around. I would love, people are saying, oh, their legs were tired. They were this, they were that. Yes and no. I mean, there was also a team that was like, yeah, I'm good. Letting Louisville push me around. I don't know. Yeah. I don't buy they were tired. Like, that's just
it's no excuse. That's like one of those. I've seen people in the chat say, oh, it's Jack Swarbrick's fault for this terrible schedule. It's the tired legs thing without the bye until after USC. Like, guys, no, stop, man, stop. Notre Dame has issues here. It's not an outside source of like, oh man, they were set up for failure. No, Notre Dame failed tonight. Yes. Like, they failed tonight. Correct. Let's leave the blame where it needs to be. Right. This was a decisive loss by Notre Dame. There were coaching issues, there were player issues, and we need to be able to talk about all those things. We need to be able to talk about all those things. I don't want to hear about tired legs. I don't want to hear about it. I don't. I played college football, obviously not at this high of a level, but like, everyone's tired, man. Everyone's tired. Like, stop. It's just not. It's not an excuse right now. It's not.
Yep, I completely agree. So let's dive into this thing. Let's as we were both kind of tippy-toeing around some of the things that happened both offensively and defensively. Let's jump into it. So let's talk some offense here. Or at least that's what they call it when Notre Dame has the ball. It was very offensive. That's for sure. But so let's jump into it. Let's start with Sam Hartman. Like I said, I think he probably had his worst game of the season. And some of that was self-imposed. Some of it was, some exterior influences like the offensive line in his face all day. He had to take a couple of sacks where he couldn't even get into his drop. I mean, he already had somebody in his face. I mean, it was, and that was across the board. And, he made some inadvised decisions. There's no doubt about that. I mean, his final stat line was 58% completion, 22 of 38 for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So, I would say 1.5 of those interceptions were his fault.
Sure.
I don't really blame him for the first one because Rico Flores needed to try to make a play on the ball. And he didn't. And that's a freshman mistake, I think. Maybe he didn't even know it was coming, but you got to get your head on a swivel. Your quarterback threw a 50-50 ball because he was getting rushed. Maybe he should have thrown it away. He gave Rico a shot. I don't know.
I think that was a predetermined throw. It seemed like I think they saw that they had one-on-one coverage to the field on that first interception, and I think that was a predetermined because it didn't even look like anybody else really ran a route. It looked like it was just like, I have one-on-one out there.
Yeah,
we're gonna take a shot, give him a 50-50 opportunity.
I don't think he threw it when he wanted to, though. I think he had to throw it early because of the pressure.
That's fair.
I think he threw it off of his back foot, but still, it's a 50-50 ball. Your guy has to make a play for it, and Rico Flores didn't. And did he see it? I don't know. Was it too early, so he wasn't expecting it? Whatever. You still have to make a play on the ball. You still have to.
Oh, no, you're right. You're 100% right. I think that was a predetermined play where the cornerback, I think it was Riley, beat Rico Flores up at the line of scrimmage, didn't let him get off the press, and he rode him all the way down the field, and he was in great position to make a play. Rico, I mean, just from the start of the play, I mean, not to kill a freshman too much, right? But didn't handle press very well, didn't get proper body positioning, and he got outplayed for a football down the field. I mean, it was like one of those weird ones too, Vince, because they were driving too, right? Like you were driving, you looked like you were starting to build a little bit. I think Sam had completed his first 3 passes before that, and I think Jeremiah Love had a 13-yard run on that drive as well. So you were feeling okay offensively, and then the interception happened. And again, I don't blame that one on Sam fully. There was 2 others that we can talk about, and there's one that was definitely Sam Hartman's fault. There's no doubt about that. But he seemed uncomfortable tonight, and I think the discomfort, and this is not on Sam at all, well, not fully on Sam, is that the offensive line was bad tonight. Can we go there on this? They were bad. They were bad
because one leads into the other. One leads into the other for sure.
And because I don't think anyone offensive line wise had a good game tonight. I mean, Joe Alt lost a rep. I think he got tripped, or that's the guy, left guard stepped on his foot. I'll have to go back, watch the film. So I'm a little hesitant to put in that one on him, but either way, Joe Alt did not have a good football game. So trust me with that. Blake Fisher did not have a good football game. He honestly may have been their worst offensive lineman tonight, if I'm being completely honest about that. But the interior offensive line was, again, not very good. It was just a bad offensive line performance in general. And it was really weird, Vince, because we were texting about this during the game, but they were also trying to get some more guys playing time. We saw Billy Shrouth. We saw Andrew Kristofic at center at one point. We saw a weird, but it wasn't just a first team, second team rotation where you're trying to get some guys a little bit more reps or whatever. It was also Billy was in at left guard one drive, then he was in at right guard one drive, and it was just this weird rotation. I didn't really get it. Yeah. And I think that honestly, just my opinion, I know it can work, the offensive line rotation things. We saw it with obviously Robert Hainsey and Tommy Kramer, and that worked well. But I feel like this rotation, they're forcing the issue because they know they're not playing well right now, and they're trying to just figure it out on the fly. And I don't think it's very organized. It didn't seem like to me. And I think that it kills rhythm, right? Because offensive line is a very rhythm-based position. And so I think I killed rhythm partly in this game, but also the offensive line was just bad. I mean, they were just bad. And they were bad last week against Duke. I partly understand some of the struggles, right? Because the Dwayne Carter last week, guys, I'm telling you, is potentially a top 100 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. That guy's a dude, number 90. He was a really good football player. This week, unacceptable. Louisville doesn't have anybody on the interior defensive line or on the linebacker level that should have caused you this much fits what they had tonight. It was just a bad game as far as creating movement at the point of attack. Pass blocking was a mess. And I'll say this, and I want to give credit to someone on the side of Louisville because they won the football game, right? Ron English outcoached Notre Dame tonight, the defensive coordinator for Louisville. Outcoached them.
Yeah.
Because you could say offensive line didn't play well, offensive line, the play calling was bad, and all those things are true. But also, Ron English won the numbers game a whole lot in the run game, man, where it was just like he got so many hats to the ball because of simulated pressures and actual pressures. And he really called a great football game. But regardless, Notre Dame's offensive line played really bad tonight, which I think affected Sam Hartman, obviously, tonight, having to deal with so much pressure.
And it was a carryover from last week, right? Because he didn't have a good game because he was dealing with pressure the entire game against Duke. And it was like they didn't have 6 days in between. And it was just a complete carryover from last week to this week. I mean, he had people in his face. He was throwing off platform. He was doing things that he wasn't doing the first 4 games because he doesn't trust his offensive line. He plays like he doesn't trust his offensive line anymore. And rightfully so, because it's like goose poop through a tin horn. I mean, it's everybody's coming up and he's got to deal with these edge rushers and, inside pressures and all of these different things. And, the one play where I think it was one of the first sacks of the ball game, completely off the edge, not even blocked. And I believe Sam Hartman pointed him out, and the running back still went through the fake and went to the right side. Like, guys, he pointed out the rusher. He was right there. You've got to be able to stay home and hit that and give your quarterback a chance to throw the football. So, he was dealing with a lot of extraneous issues. And then on top of that, he was not the most precise that he's been in earlier games this season. So back-to-back bad games by the offensive line, back-to-back subpar games by Sam Hartman. And this is what you get. I mean, you get an almost loss and a blowout loss. I mean, call it what it is, right?
And the offensive line, like there's an issue there too, because it's been so volatile throughout the season, man. It's not like they just beat up on the bad teams and they've been bad against the good teams. Like they had a really nice performance against Ohio State. I mean, I would say this. I just talked about Dwayne Carter. He's a fantastic player for Duke last week, but Notre Dame did pretty well against Tyleik Williams and Michael Hall and all those Ty Hamilton. Like there were some really good defensive linemen, for Ohio State. That's why it doesn't make a lot of sense why we're here, right? It's like, how do you play well as an offensive line against Ohio State, but then you look lost against Duke and Louisville in back-to-back weeks? It just doesn't make much sense. There needs to be like I think just like honestly, like I know people don't want to hear this right now, but like there needs to be like a legitimate like conversation, and I think just kind of plan put in place here as far as like, because how it's like an evaluation almost of like what's going on here, like why is this so volatile? And tonight it reared its ugliest of heads, man. Like they were bad against Duke as an offensive line. They were probably worse tonight. Like they were very, very bad, man. I just I couldn't put my mind around how ineffective the offensive line was. But also I say that, but the play calling didn't help anything, right? Like it was very predictable. You knew what the offense was doing. And when, as an offensive lineman, if there's extra hats to a gap because they know what's coming, it's kind of hard to block, right? It's kind of hard to block. So the offensive line was not very good tonight, but I also think the play calling was bad. Like it just was. It was not a well-called football game, man. They're just, God. I'm going on a rant here. Because there's not a lot of positives to look at offensively tonight to say like that's a glimmer of hope. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I don't want to go out of order, but it's like, okay, Mitchell Evans made some plays like he's been making. You know what I mean? Like Jeremiah Love looks good when he gets touches, but I mean, there's just not a lot to take from this game and say like that's a big positive offensively. It was just not very good tonight, man. Just not very good.
Nope, across the board. And since you brought up play calling, let's talk about third down. Because the third down play calling was atrocious, frankly, and it was extremely predictable. They ended up going 3 of 13 on third down, and I want to say one of those was on that final garbage drive, 75-yard drive that they had for a touchdown, which, of course, meant nothing at that time. They
finally opened it up. They finally opened it up when it didn't matter anymore, which is great.
When it didn't matter anymore, they were all of a sudden they look great. They were a great looking offense at that point, and that's hard to fathom, to be honest with you. But I forget exactly. Let's see. So they were at one point, they were 1 of 8, ended up 3 of 13. So we're going to add 5 and 2. So 6 of 28. 6 of 28 in the last 2 games on third down.
It's not great, man. It's not great.
That's awful. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not going to win many ball games going 6 of 28 on third down. I mean, it's in 2 games. Like you're just not going to win. You're lucky to have won last week, frankly.
Yep.
And you're not going to win. You didn't win this week. You got blown out because you couldn't convert on third down, right? And so some of their third down calls, especially third and short, running into a stack box, it just lack of creativity. And it just like these drives would come to a screeching halt on third down when it just didn't make a whole lot of sense why they were doing what they were doing. And somebody in the chat said, can Sam Hartman, is he allowed to audible? I don't really see him audibling all that much. I don't know if that's just the way that they do things or whatever, but you would think when you walk up to the line of scrimmage and you see 9 guys in the box and you have a run call, maybe that's not the best way to go about it. But, they try a jet sweep to the short side at one point. They tried to run into a 9-man box. They tried a toss play, I think, at one point to Audric Estime. Like, why are you throwing a toss play to Audric Estime? Like, there's just a lot of issues on third down. And look, I've called plays before, and you make your money on third down as a play caller, period. Like, you can be a great play caller on first and second down, but you earn your money on third down, man. And whatever I said, 6 of 28, you're not earning your paycheck, man. You're just not.
Now, and Vince, I would say this too. So offensive play calling, as you have illustrated, as I have illustrated, was not very good tonight. Not very good. That's way too nice. It was bad tonight. The offensive play calling was bad tonight. You know what else drives me crazy though about this team is that they never play with pace as an offense. Even when they're down, it's just like so slow and monotonous getting to the line of scrimmage. And even when they make a nice play, it's still slow and monotonous getting to the line of scrimmage. There is no, I think Brian uses the word urgency all the time. So like, I'm not going to say urgent. Like, I'm going to say that there's just no pace to what you do offensively, man. It's just like, I don't know what the identity here is trying to be honest. It's very archaic. It feels like it's a very ball control, slow tempo, run game. Like, don't make a ton of mistakes. Like, that feels like that's the identity that they are trying to find, but it's not going to work, especially in a game where you fell behind. You need to now start getting a pep in the step, right?
Right.
You're an offense that has now struggled offensively for multiple games. Like, it would be great to, oh, wow, we have a little bit of momentum here. We just hit a big play. Let's now get up and let's get going a little bit, right? Get the defense on their heels a little bit. And they didn't run with any pace at all. No pace, bad play calling. It was just, I didn't take anything positive away from the offensive coaching tonight. I just didn't. I've seen some good things during the course of the season, but the last 2 weeks, not much. It's been tough sledding, man. It's been real tough sledding.
Yeah, I mean, I could pick out issues with every position on offense in this particular game, right? Maybe not the running backs, but they missed some pass protection too. So, again, offensive line issues, wide receivers, issues getting, it's the same issues that we've had over and over as far as not being able to get off press coverage and finishing at the top end of routes and things of that nature. Like, maybe tight end is okay, maybe. But then again, Jared Parker's the play caller. So it's like, okay, well, I still have an issue with you. So, across the board, there's issues to go around. There's plenty of blame to go around offensively. And it's a offensive coordinator issue. It's an offensive staff issue at this point. And I never thought that these words would be coming out of my mouth this season after watching what this team was doing the first 4 games of the season. And I think that's the part that irks me the most, because this is a shadow of who this team was the first 4 games. And you can talk about
Yep.
competition all you want. That's fine. I'll take that. But the offense just looked completely different. Whether they were executing or not, the play calling, the execution, all of it was just completely different. Don't tell me it was just because they were going up against Navy or whatever. It was, the play calling was creative. It was appropriate. It
Yep.
was all of the things that it was supposed to be. It got me excited for who Jared Parker was. And the last 3 games, not so much. And I think that's what's got me more upset than anything else. Like, I'm not even angry. I'm disappointed. Like, I feel like I'm talking to my kids. I'm not even angry at you. I'm disappointed. And that's supposed to make you feel worse.
Vince, I actually feel bad for a lot of other Notre Dame fans because it's like I'm a 31-year-old Notre Dame fan. I've never seen a championship, right? Like it's just like I'm used to disappointment and I'm used to this type of thing, which is very sad to say. And I mean, I'm literally like, my wife's texting me because she's already up in bed, right? Like at the end of the game, was like, man, what the heck happened here? Like type of thing. And I'm just like, hey, it's
Yeah,
Notre
my
Dame
wife said the
football,
same
baby.
thing. She's like, you said
Yeah.
that they were going to win big. I was like, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
thought they were. Man, it's not my week. I don't know what to tell you.
I thought they could have potentially rolled this team, and they did not roll them, obviously. And it's incredibly frustrating, though, for like just the short side of things, because you think that it's going somewhere, right? Like you think that you understand what the end goal is, what the full scope of what this program needs to stand for, right? And what it has stood for in the past, and why you need to get it back to that. And again, like I'm not here to say like the future of Notre Dame football stinks and it's never going to be good again, but like just in a vacuum this night stunk. It was terrible. I mean, it was. And I know we're kind of doing like the overarching thing instead of getting like super in the nitty-gritty, which we need to be getting into, right? But that is part of it, though, is that this offense for me, and this goes back to play calling, I'm not sure what the end goal is here. I'm not sure what the full scope of like what you want to be is. I'm not sure what the identity is. I don't know what it is right now. And it's affecting all your players. I'll say this, Vince. I talked about pace, right? I talked about confidence. I don't see juice with this team right now that I thought I saw in the first few games. It was like I thought I saw the swagger from Sam Hartman. I thought I saw Audric Estime with that swagger to him. And this isn't a shot at either one of those kids because they were playing their butts off. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying, though, is that this offense has no swagger to it in general right now. Like there's no confidence. There's no juice. Where's the juice come from? You need to figure it out because it's certainly not there right now, man. And yeah. Jordan Faison, though. If we want a positive for the night, another guy that popped in my mind.
There's your game ball.
Man.
Right? And
walk on freshman wide receiver who was a high school quarterback, by the way, and was here to play lacrosse more than to play football. And he looks like your best receiver on 2 plays.
And I think those are the only plays that he was really in on. I'd have to go back and watch, but the 2 plays that he was in, I watched him specifically.
Yep.
He ran hard. Like he runs routes hard. And I don't want it to be an indictment on every receiver that is in the room because they do run hard, but it was a different level. He was playing at a different level tonight.
Yep.
He was only in the game because Rico was getting checked out by the medical staff, I believe.
But he took advantage of his plays, man, which is more than a lot of people have a chance to. So yeah.
The only people that were disappointed with the play on the field from Jordan Faison were probably the lacrosse coaches, is my guess. But
he's got to keep playing football now, man. He's got to keep playing. Yeah.
Right. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But that is the bright spot. So he can get my game ball for offense if we're giving one out because no one else really stood out and deserved it. There were little things here and there. You would have loved to see Chris Tyree catch that ball on that fade. Absolutely. It's a tough catch. Obviously,
he has to catch it.
It's a catchable ball. I would have liked to see that ball a little bit more on his inside so he can just run underneath it and grab it. So it was a little bit more awkward coming over here, but you still have to catch that ball. I mean, you're a Power 5 wide receiver. You got to catch that ball. End of discussion, right?
I think
other than
that's
that,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, Vince. I think that's a great segue because we talked about quarterback, we talked about offensive line, we talked about playmaker. Wide receivers, it's just a lot of the same from what we've got over the last couple weeks, right? And we didn't see much of Jaden Greathouse tonight. I'm assuming that he's still kind of hampered from his hamstring injury. I saw him throw on a couple plays, but like not a ton tonight.
Yeah.
We saw Jane Thomas tonight, which was expected, obviously. But and I need to go back to the film when it's available, hopefully tonight, to see if the issues are really there as much as I think they are. But like it just, especially on the outside, the positions where it really matters as far as creating separation, the ability to stack and get on top of guys and finding blind spots and getting in and out of breaks. Just the outside receivers right now just aren't getting open consistently. It doesn't seem like to me. I mean,
right.
Like the outside, the first interception is a great example of like, we've seen that a lot this year already, where it's like an outside receiver can't get off a press and can't create separation down the field. Like it isn't happening consistently. Most of the big plays that Notre Dame has created this year in the passing game are in the slot, tight ends, like that type of stuff, after catch stuff in the middle of the field. A lot of it is. So again, like that was my main takeaway from the wide receivers tonight. Jordan Faison is easily, for me, the bright spot, and Rico Flores continues to play hard and take his lumps, but still kind of continue to get better, and which is great. But they have no outside elements in this offense right now, and that was the same tonight.
They got a bunch of slots.
They have a bunch of slots, but they also have guys that look like they should be perimeter separators and perimeter players, right? They have guys like that. And those players are not stepping up, in my opinion, in those positions. So right now you have a lot of the same type of football player, right? Like it's like Jaden Greathouse can play outside, I'm sure of it. And maybe if he wasn't hampered by his injury, maybe he would have played a lot more tonight. But he has been best up until this point as a slot receiver. Jaden Thomas in his career has been best up until this point as a slot receiver. Chris Tyree can only play slot receiver because he is a smaller guy. He doesn't have that type of frame. And then in the chat all week, people were like, put Tobias in the slot. And I'm just like, guys, who's playing outside? Is anyone going to be able to play outside? Notre Dame has an inability to win outside the numbers right now. And that is making everything harder and more condensed and tighter windows. And it is an issue. No doubt about it.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. They need to figure out what they want to do, as far as wide receiver is concerned. You're right. I think they've got a bunch of slots. They got some kids with talent at the slot position, right? And I don't think Greathouse was in for a couple of plays. He wasn't 100%. He wasn't ready to go. Yep. And even Jaden Thomas, I thought I saw him limping off at one point after he made a catch there towards the end. So like, I don't think he was 100%. That's the thing about hamstring injuries, though, man. They're nagging, and you don't know until you heat it up. I mean, that's the thing. And so it's tough.
It's very tough because I feel like it might be a different scenario right now if there wasn't this hamstring injury stuff that is just being plagued around the wide receiver core right now. Like that's because we've now seen Jaden Thomas, Jaden Greathouse miss games with hamstring injuries. We know that Chris Tyree, Tobias Merriweather, they're also dealing with it as well, right? And maybe that's a part of the issue with creating separation, because obviously it's very hard to be you're as explosive as you possibly can with a hamstring injury as a wide receiver. I mean, that position is just built off of being explosive and getting up to top gear and those types of things. But, at the end of the day, though, it's not an excuse. Like, you're the University of Notre Dame, right? So you have a deeper wide receiver core than you've had for the last couple of years. You have numbers. And right now, man, like, it's just, I feel like this offense is just they're just so reduced, with everything they do. Everything they do is run game and middle of the field. Everything they do. They don't really have anything that stresses the perimeter. And that's what I saw tonight. You don't have a guy that's going to be able to just win a one-on-one shot outside the numbers. You don't have a guy that's going to be able to create after the catch on the outside. You just have a bunch of inside-oriented players, which is fine, except when defenses now start saying, we're just going to funnel everything inside because we have numbers there and you can't win outside the numbers. Like, you can't do it. And that, I think that was the predictability to the game tonight to a degree, where it's like tell me if I'm off base on this, Vince. Like, I blamed the play calling, right? Because I thought it was very vanilla and just very not creative. And I believe that. But also, I do think, and this is going to sound, some people are going to disagree with this very much, and it's fine. But I do think that there is some limitations to how Jared Parker can call a football game right now when he doesn't have that outside threat. He doesn't have the outside threat, so it hurts your ability to be creative in the pass game, to be exotic, I just think it hurts it a little bit. And again, no excuse on Jared Parker. He needs to call better football games. He was not good tonight, 100%. But I also think that it's not just Jared Parker. There is also a failure on the player side of things as far as the ability to create those plays outside the numbers. They're not creating them right now. They're not creating those plays.
Yeah, I know. I see where you're coming from. You need to have everything available to you if you want to be the best OC that you can be. But again, that doesn't excuse, obviously. I see where you're coming from a schematic standpoint. You've got to be able to use different things to get other things open, et cetera, et cetera. But the play calling was just not good. It just wasn't good at all. And it's not. If you would have told me that they had a different OC the first 4 games and they had the last 3 games, I've been like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different. It's completely different. It's like, okay, well, those first 4 games were great. We're just going to crumple it up. We're going to throw that away. We're going to start fresh. We're just going to go back to what we've always done. Like,
man, I know we're not supposed to get off a tangent on the chat, man, but I just love when people put words in my mouth. It's just so fantastic. Like, yeah, sure, man. Sure.
Come on.
Yep.
Get after it. Let's go.
Get
him.
Get him. Yeah. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's become a very vanilla offense because I think there are some limitations and I don't think Jared Parker's helping any of it. That's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts.
Fair. That's fair. And look, somebody else is talking about they need to fire everybody and all of these different things. Look, there is also reality. Okay. There's also a reality situation. And here's the reality of the situation. You can't fire a bunch of assistant coaches in the middle of the season because then guess what happens? You don't have anybody to coach the team. Okay. So you do
you're
have
to lose your
that.
entire recruiting class that you are building.
There's also that. Yeah. Okay. So those things have to be understood. There is a reality to all of this. Okay. Now, at the end of the year, you evaluate things, you make changes. I have no problem with that. Okay. But you don't fire somebody in the middle of October. You can fire a head coach. Okay. And I'm not saying you fire Marcus Freeman. I'm saying in football in general, you can fire a head coach because you got a bunch of assistants who can take over. You can't fire a bunch of assistants because you don't have anybody to take over. So, come on. Like, things were bad. We all agree, but can we at least stay grounded in reality? That would be great. I would appreciate that. So, anyway, let's continue talking about the offense. Let's talk about the run game a little bit. Very confusing the way that they were attempting to use the run game today, Ryan. It seemed like they had a good thing going with Jeremiah Love. Then they go away from it, and they don't really revisit it until they try to give him an end around, a jet to the boundary on 3rd down, which was over before it started. He averaged over 7 yards a carry in limited action, but he was still effective when they gave him the football. Man, that kid runs hard. Like, that kid
he's good.
Runs the ball very, very hard. He's very difficult to take down. And when Audric Estime's in the game, they know he's going to run between the tackles, and the offensive line was not giving him a push, and they just kept banging their head against the wall. So thoughts on the run game and what the thought process was there?
I mean, it was a little bit of the same what we saw last week, in my opinion. It was very predetermined. It was very ordinary. It was very predictable. I mean, they have now turned into, they're just a power running team, right? And they don't really hit the edges, except to your point of, you run a one toss play to Audric Estime, who probably doesn't fit that skill set quite as well. Like, I don't hate it if you that's a part of your offense and Jeremiah Love maybe gashes you for one and then somebody else. And then Audric Estime is like, oh, dang, we weren't expecting that, right? Like, Audric Estime is like, we didn't expect him to be the guy that gets the toss. That's cool for every once in a while.
Right.
But it was just, I mean, yeah, man, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's like I, as a former defensive player, I felt like I could have called out what was coming a bunch of times during this game, right?
Exactly.
As a linebacker, like I feel like I
Yep.
could have been like, I know where this is going, like just by alignments. That's what
Yeah.
it felt like tonight. And it was weird because they, like you said, they went to like Jeremiah Love early, looked good, right? But then, like in the second quarter, I think Brian texted us. It was like Audric Esme only has one carry in the, and it was like partly through the second quarter, and it was just kind of a weird split. Like we're not seeing much Price anymore for whatever reason. I think I only saw like one or two carries that he had. I don't even know if he had how many he had. I only
I
saw
think
one for sure. I think
I
in the
remember.
game though.
Yep, he had 1 for 2.
Just just one work. That one actually, he almost broke it. He almost broke that one. There was something there, but he just got tripped up at the line, and then he fell forward for like 2 yards. But we're not seeing much Price. We're seeing Love in spurts, but not consistently. And then I feel like it's very simplistic and very predictable when Audric Estime is the running back right now. I think
Right.
it is. Like I
Well,
know what
yeah.
I know when Audric Estime is getting the ball. I know pretty much it's 2 or 3 different types of run plays. That's it. They don't have diversity with Audric Estime right now. The diversity comes off of having Jeremiah Love in the game,
Sure.
having Jadarian Price in the game, having
Right.
those types of guys. That's where the diversity comes from. They're not diverse right now with Audric Estime in the game, which makes him very predictable. He's still a very good running back. But tonight, he wasn't able to get anything going because I feel like for the most part, you knew what was coming. And as a defense, if you know what's coming, it's very easy to stop.
Yeah, and you want to be a balanced offense, right? And I'm not saying you have to have the same number of pass plays, the same number of run plays, and all of that sort of thing, right? But to me, part of the problem was not only was the run game off in the way that they were attempting it, but they just abandoned it, is what it felt like to me. I mean, they had, Audric Estime had 10 carries for 20 yards. Okay. So he touched the ball 10 times. Jeremiah Love touched the ball 5 times. The other 2 running backs each had 1 carry. That's 17 carries for the running backs. And then you had 38 passes. Okay. So, and then you had more pass plays that were called because Sam Hartman carried the ball 10 times. And we know that he was sacked 5 of those times. And so you called 43 pass plays to 17 run plays, more or less. Like that's tough, and Louisville was ready for it. And yes, the passing game was working at times, but you need to have that threat of a running game. And we all know that Marcus Freeman wants to be a run first team. He wants to run the ball to set up the pass. He wants to do all of that. They were not dedicated to the run game like I think they should have been, but at the same time, the run game lacked any kind of creativity as well. And so different guys were running the ball when they shouldn't have been, in manners in which they shouldn't have been running it. Like, just so many issues with the run game. And then they only did it 17 times. Like, that's tough. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow for me as a Notre Dame fan and a Notre Dame analyst to see that kind of a disparity run to pass, So that part bothered me for sure. And I didn't have a problem with Jeremiah Love getting the carries early on in the game. I didn't have that problem. And the fact that Audric Estime wasn't getting those, because the runs were for Jeremiah Love, not Audric Estime. And all week, so a week ago, everybody's like, you got to give Audric more carries, especially at the end of the game, after the Ohio State game. So they force feed Audric the ball. And then you hear people, oh, you got to give Jeremiah Love more carries. Da, 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 da. So they do that in the first quarter of this game. And people are like, why aren't you giving the ball to Audric Estime? It's like, you just can't make everybody happy. And I'm not happy either, frankly. I thought the run game was uneventful in a lot of ways and mismanaged in a lot of ways as well.
And sorry, Raina is screaming in the background. So if anybody hears a 4-month-old in the background, there's that. No, Vince, I think it's really well said, though. It really is. I think that for me, like every running back, I think has their role in this offense, but it's very specific role at this point where it's incredibly predictable as far as what's coming. Like Jabron Payne and Audric Estime, I know it's some sort of inside run, most likely, right? Like it's power or it's,
Right.
some counter or whatever, those types of things, right? Jeremiah Love is a little bit more diverse. He can run those things and then he'll get an occasional jet sweep or that type of thing. Jabron Payne has been like a pure. I'm not Jabron Payne. Price has been a pure like. He's been mostly like an inside zone runner at this point. So like you know what's coming, and at some point it's like you have all these crazy skilled running backs, a lot of them, right? It's 5 deep. I mean, uh, it's just an embarrassment of riches from a talent perspective. But again, you could be as talented as you can. Some of you were funny in the chat. I'm sorry. But that last comment just had me rolling there. That was funny. But you can have as much talent at running back as you want, but at the end of the day, in order for that was a quick change. We got to change that back real quick.
That was kind of intense. Do you know the code, by the way? Because
I do. I'll pop it up in a second.
You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll at least get that part.
that actually happened to me, Vince. Literally, I was doing a show one time, and then what the heck? That's not the right one. Oh no. There we go. That literally happened to me as I was starting a show one time. Like the countdown started, and then that thing popped. I'm like, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I forget what I was even talking about, man. Like run game diversity. Run game diversity.
Yes.
Run game diversity needs to come from a full scale of running backs, right? The running backs need to be able to run multiple things because that's how diversity works, right? Like when Jeremiah Love's in a football game, I don't know what Jeremiah Love's running. When Audric Estime is in a football game, I, as a defensive coordinator, don't know what or as a linebacker, so actually on the field, I don't know what Audric Estime is running. That's why diversity works. It's not diverse as much if I know exactly what you're running with every particular back that you put in the offense. That's where things become a little bit predictable. So that part needs to improve, in my opinion. And that was a little bit of the fault of the running game a little bit today, in my opinion.
And that's where you need to go against tendency, right? And you need to, like when it was one of the third downs, one of the third and shorts, they've got 8 guys on the line. You've got Audric in the backfield, and everybody, their brother, their sister, and anybody that doesn't know squat about football knows they're going to hand the ball to Audric Estime, and he gets demolished in the backfield. That's where you got to run something different. Hey, everybody, we're going to run the ball right here. Give it to 7, and you do something different. Like, it seems so elementary to me, and yet it's not being done. And I think that, for me, is extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. Now, there's a time where you would like to say, my dudes are better than your dudes, and we're going to push you back a yard and pick up this first down. I get that. But no part of the last 2 games has Notre Dame given the coaching staff that kind of certainty that is going to take place. You know what I mean? And so if that's not happening, then your coaching staff needs to adjust. You need to call plays so that you're not expecting your line to pick up a yard and a half when you know that that's probably not going to happen. So again, it comes back to play calling, it comes back to coaching, but it also comes back to execution, right? But you can't put your players in a position to where they're not going to be successful. And I think everybody knew on that 3rd and short, like, well, if they run the ball here, it's not going to work. And yet that's what they did.
I knew exactly what the play was going to be run when Jabron Payne had that stop, when he got stopped. I forget if it was 3rd or 4th down. I was like, I knew exactly what that play was. Exactly 100%. What it was. And it's very easy to obviously, like, Blake Fisher, I have no idea what he was doing there. But ultimately, like, you knew where the ball was going, and it was very easy and predictable to stop defensively. Like it was. Yes, so yes, offensive line played poor, but it's also play calling didn't help that at all. The predictability didn't help that at all. It was just very frustrating. And I think that's a perfect, I think that is a perfect example of the frustration is a play like that where you're just like, I knew what that play was. I knew what was coming. I
Do you know who else did? Louisville's defensive staff.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ron English.
I mean,
Yes,
it was so Ryan, you texted during the game, man. You're like, Ron English is absolutely out coaching this Notre Dame staff. I mean, Vince, to your point, you talk about execution was poor in the O-line. That was one that was not on the O-line. Right? There was a lot on the O-line. But you're running downhill. It looked like I couldn't tell if it was duo or inside zone. I have to look at the film, Ryan. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. I couldn't tell from up there.
I couldn't tell you.
But you're running either duo, inside zone, something with a short backside edge. And Louisville knew what was coming. And from I formation, so you had nothing to freeze the backside. No RPO, no quarterback keep, nothing. Ryan, you're a defensive guy. That's easy.
Yep.
That's easy play calling because you know they're going to do it. You bring a guy off the edge. Duke did it all game last week. They kept doing it all week last week.
Right.
So it's not like Louisville was doing something that, wow, that was a good scheme. It took team 7 games to figure that out.
Yep.
They did it last week, and you had no answers. Yeah. You had no answers.
It's frustrating. So just to catch you up on what we've been talking about, Brian, is we went big picture, and now we've been talking about the offense. We have yet to make our way over to the other side of the ball. So
there's a lot to talk about offensively tonight. So.
Yes, there is. So the floor is yours if you want to give some big picture and some offensive thoughts, and then we can kind of move on from there.
Well, I appreciate you guys handling business for me tonight. I really do appreciate that. I just, guys, this was just a one of the most disappointing games I've ever been to, attended, seen at Notre Dame, covering Notre Dame in all my years doing this, simply because this team, it's been a while. It's been a while. We've seen it, but it's been a while that you saw a team just so colossally out-coached and outplayed as we saw tonight in so many different phases of the game. And I know you guys talked about it, but I just got to say it. You've got a coach learning on the job and all that kind of stuff, but like that 4th and 11 call with 9:49 left in the game, you're only down 11. And it's like Jeff Brom tried to save Marcus Freeman on that particular play. Tried to save him, called timeout. Hey, Mark, you might want to rethink this one, man.
Right.
And your defense was not playing bad. Louisville out. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But the defense didn't play well tonight. Defense didn't lose this football game.
I completely agree.
Offense put them in a lot of bad spots. But it was just one of those things where it's just like you panicked and showed you had no faith in your team. And that's how they played the whole game. They coached like they didn't have faith in their players. The players played like they had no faith in what was going on. Yeah. Marcus Freeman said after the game they were not prepared. He may be saying that as coach speak, but it's flat out true.
It's absolutely true. But why? Why are you not prepared?
And I don't want to hear, hey, they're worn out. It was bad scheduling. Yes, it was bad scheduling to get to 8 games without a bye. But did Duke really wear you out that much? Did Central Michigan and Tennessee State and Navy and NC State really wear you out that much that you couldn't come to play against Louisville?
Right.
And offensively, guys, it just just big picture offensively, guys. It comes down to you don't know who you want to be. Yep. And the one thing you do want to do, you can't do because for the second straight game, you got your butts kicked in the trenches by an ACC team. For the second straight game, an undersized ACC team for the second straight game.
Well, at least Duke had a good defensive line. This defensive line they played tonight was not very good, and they got their butts kicked.
No. And it was physically you got whooped, schematically you got whooped. They knew what was coming half the time. The things that you did that gave you success, you didn't go to a whole lot. There just were so many different things, and I know you guys covered the whole offense. You can't win a game where when the game is in doubt, your outside receivers are only got 4 catches for 18 yards. Did you guys see that stat line? No, you didn't, because you guys went right to the post-game show, so you didn't see it. They had some, like Tobias caught a ball late, Jaden Thomas caught a ball late, but that was when the game was over.
They both caught their first ball in the last series of that 75-yard drive.
Jaden Thomas caught a 4-yard slant route earlier in the game.
Oh, I
It
don't
was
even
like a
remember
little
that.
4-yard slant route.
where he was where he was also blanketed on that
Right.
play.
It was a
but,
great
yeah.
ball, put it right in his gut. But
Yeah.
your outside receivers had 4 catches for 18 yards when it mattered. And just, I can't think of a position that a couple players played well. Jeremiah Love is a dude. I mean, he's a
Jordan
dude.
Faison played well. Jordan Faison
Yeah,
played
Jordan
well.
Faison played well. I'm
Mitchell
very
Evans
curious.
played well.
Yeah,
I think.
I
I don't know how he played in the run game,
didn't.
but like
I didn't see the
you know.
blocking, but I mean, he was getting open.
Yeah.
There, and the thing is, like schematically, there were some things that were there in the pass game. Honestly, guys, Ryan, you'll see this when you go back and look at the all 22. But there were things there at times. They just, he never had time. And Sam Hartman is playing like a quarterback who has no faith that he's going to have time to throw.
Said that. Yep. So we talked
Absolutely
about that.
playing like a guy.
And
that
it was a carryover from last week to this week.
Yeah.
It
Last
was like
2
they
weeks,
just erased the 6 days in between, and this was like just one long game offensively for the way Sam Hartman played. Like, and he didn't play well. Like he missed some guys, and there were things that he did that were not good, right? But he had pressure in his face a lot too, and he's throwing off his back foot, and it's just
But here's my thing,
the same
Vince.
thing that happened last week.
This is the frustrating thing, and I'm sure you guys talked about this, but here's the thing. For all the crap that happened, it's 17-13, and you call a pump fake, throw the wide fade, which we've been talking about for weeks, to Mitchell Evans for a 30-yard gain. You're in Louisville territory, and it comes back because of a stupid penalty. Like not even like a, it was questionable or it was an aggressive penalty. Just what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
For Blake Fisher.
How does when was the last time either of you guys saw an offensive lineman get a freaking face mask?
Seriously.
The same guy that jumped off had a false start Ryan on the 3rd and 1 earlier in the game too that also killed a drive.
Yep.
And some people like because I am also one of those people that are always, you blame the coaches and the players are the last resort. But no coach teaches an offensive lineman to have his hands in another man's face. No one does that, right? That play is on Blake Fisher. That play is on Blake Fisher, not Joe Rudolph. I just don't want to blame Joe Rudolph for every single part of this. Yeah.
Ryan, you and I are going to have some conversations about offensive line coaching this week and moving forward. But you nailed that right there. You and I have watched a lot of Wisconsin games of the year. Vince, you and I have watched it. I've never seen Joe Rudolph teach that ever.
No.
And it's just one of those things where, you can blame Joe Rudolph for a lot of things tonight.
Yeah.
That's not it.
No.
That's just one of those, you're not a big time player yet. You're just not. And there were too many of those guys there. And, and I hate to say it, and I don't want to put this on Joe Rudolph, but, just as a whole, like the further we get into the season, the worse they get. That's not the direction an offensive line is supposed to go, guys.
Yeah.
But like, even with all the issues, you bang that 30-yard completion there, guys, and we might be having a different conversation right now. Who knows? And there were too many plays like that where it's like, this is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I don't know what the answers are, but Marcus Freeman is going to have to find them fast, because if you think Louisville created problems for you, next week is going to be a major problem. And I know right now USC is looking like crap, but still, it's just
doesn't matter. You're still going to have to score. I mean, and Notre Dame hasn't proven that they can score on a consistent basis the last 3 games.
You know what it looked like to me, Vince? This looked like a group of players on offense that just had no faith in themselves and each other and in the coaching staff. That's what it looked like all night long, really. And the thing is, it started well. Boom, 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 3 straight completions.
Yeah.
And then you throw a go route to Rico Flores, and it's just one of those things where why throw that ball, right?
Yeah, right.
But the other part is, I mean, just the effort for that. And it's like, part of me, Vince, is like, it's kind of like what you said when we first got started, right? It's why is he the guy getting that ball?
Right.
Right.
He still has to try to make a play on it, and he didn't. I don't know that he saw it coming or whatever the case may be.
Right.
He still needs to try to make a play on it.
He's got to think it's coming, right?
Exactly.
Right?
He's got to have his head on a swivel. You've got to make at least a play on, just like the reverse happened when Louisville had the ball, and it looked like it could have been a pick by Benjamin Morrison, and the receiver kind of went over the top and at least tried to make a play for it and prevented Benjamin from making that interception. You got to at least make a play for that ball. You got to make a play for it. You know what I mean? And again, freshman mistake. Okay, I could chalk that up to a freshman mistake, but it was disappointing. Like I still wanted to see him make a play on that ball. You know what I mean? So that was a bit frustrating.
The development that we're seeing up front and on the perimeter is problematic for me. That's problematic for me, Vince.
Also an interesting time to be shuffling offensive linemen, in and
Yeah,
out.
what was that about? Like you and I talked about this. That should have been done against Central Michigan. That should have been done against Tennessee State. That should have been done against Navy. Like you're waiting now for a Louisville game.
It felt like a knee-jerk reaction to the way that they played last week.
Yeah.
So one bad week, and now we're gonna shuffle guys, and we're gonna have a kid who's never played in a game in legit snaps, and Billy Schrouth played 2 different positions in this game, playing both guards, and you've got Andrew Kristofic playing a position he's never played in a game at center, right? Like it felt forced. And it felt like a quick reaction to something that happened last week. And we talked about the fact that, the offensive line played great against Ohio State. They didn't play well against Duke. Okay, maybe it's a one-off. Let's see if they rebound, that kind of a thing. Yeah. And then you throw this at them and don't even allow them to kind of get into a rhythm of any kind.
Right.
Look, they didn't execute a lot of the game. I'm not trying to give an excuse for the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? But you're not doing them any favors by shuffling them all around. I didn't like that at all.
Well, it just leads to the whole thing of they're just throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing if it sticks from a game plan standpoint. Like, look, you guys know this. I'm a fan of rotating. I'm a fan of playing guys. I'm a fan of mixing up personnel. But we've said this for weeks, guys. You can overdo it. And they are way overdoing it. Like Chris Tyree catches a quick post route for 13 yards and they take him right out. Now, I'm not advocating for Chris Tyree playing more. I'm just using, and this is the specific example of, like, how about you go, right? Go, line up and go. It's like Jordan Faison catches the touchdown pass. Do you guys remember seeing Jordan Faison getting targeted again the rest of the game?
No.
Right? Like, there just was a lot of stuff like that where it's like, it just seemed like they were just calling plays to call plays.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what you do. Now, like, again, there was a couple calls I loved in this game. The pump fake, the coming out of after Louisville, after you had a stop, right? 17-10, you get a field goal, your D gets a stop, you come out your next series and you do that pump fake and then it gets ruined. So, I mean, but I shouldn't be able to point to 2 or 3 plays here and there. There should be more of that. And so, like you said, guys, there's a lot of player culpability in this game. There's a lot of coaching culpability in this game. It is, but like there's been times in the past where we would say, we defend the players and Brian Kelly or whoever didn't put them in position to be successful. And there was a lot of that tonight. But there also was just a lot of just the compete level wasn't there tonight. Not that they were, like I want to be careful with that. There just wasn't a compete level, and that you want to see. There was nobody on this offense that I saw outside of Mitchell Evans that just said, hey, man, our backs are against the wall. Get me the rock.
Right.
It's like Jeremiah Love, Ryan, second series, I think it was. He got those touches, right? Let me see here.
Yeah, because they threw the ball the whole first series. So second series, they gave the ball to Love.
So,
13-yard run.
So he goes for 13 on the first play, 5 for the next, and he does not carry the ball again until late second quarter.
Right.
Yep.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, look, we don't see Aldrich estimate till the second quarter. There just was there's no rhyme or reason to the substituting. And so when you're and my point is this, Ryan, when you substitute that much, you can only have so much in, offense in each alignment. And B, it makes it harder to get into a rhythm. It does. When you're just constant. I mean, these receivers spend more time running off and onto the field than they do running routes.
Yep.
And it's going to be hard to get in a rhythm. And I'll say this too, and I'll leave this with you, Ryan, because Like somebody said, look like the DB shoved Rico a little bit. I'm like, I'm a little. I'm not flagging that. But here's the thing. I'm not flagging it because the receiver didn't fight for the ball. It's the same thing with Tobias last week. Like, I'm not throwing a flag on a defensive back if the receiver's not fighting for the football. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. And the lack of the plan or lack thereof on getting releases off the line, it is embarrassingly bad. And it's all of them. Whether it's the freshman, like Rico Flores' ability to get off the line has regressed from what we saw from him in the spring. How's that happen? Because now they're all doing the same thing, like a little stutter and go. And they're about as easy to cover on go routes as possible. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I already talked a little bit about the offensive line rotation and how rhythm is such an important thing, especially at that position, right? Where it's like you need to be in unison with the guy next to you and then the full five in general. And when you're getting rotated and subbed, because it wasn't like a one person rotation or I compared it to when we saw Tommy Kramer and Robert Hainsey rotating, right? It's like, that's one player, like that's one position. That's the rotation. I literally saw Billy Stroud at left guard, then right guard, then Andrew Kristofic was in at center at one point, then Zeke Correll was in with Billy Stroud at one point. I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I didn't think it was organized.
Ryan, did you see that Billy Stroud was at right guard the next time?
That's what I said. Left guard, then right guard. Yeah. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Ryan, like, would that make sense to you if you were doing that the veteran? Like if you had if you were doing like Kristofic, a guy that's played both of those positions, that would maybe make a little more sense for me than literally a guy who's never played a meaningful snap in his life. And he's the guy you're flipping from left to right in that game. Make that make sense to me.
I mean, I hate it in general. Forget about that. Like, I hate that. I don't like flipping guys just in general. Like Joe Alt wouldn't flip for me. Like I wouldn't do it. I mean, offensive line is just such a regimented position of just being consistent and footwork and that type hand placement. Like it's just, I don't know, man. I have no answers for it. It's one of those scenarios that is happening where I'm just like, your offense is already struggling to get in a rhythm, and we are going to sacrifice even more rhythm by doing a rotation that doesn't make a ton of sense. The offensive line rotation, I thought, was the most maddening one on tonight. It didn't make any sense to me.
All right, you guys, are we good with offense, or we want to move over to the other side of the ball?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's talk defense. And I think, couple points that I'll make, and I'll let you guys fire away. Number one, tackling is still an issue. Specifically on those two long runs, DJ Brown missed open field tackles, but he's not the only one missing tackles. Tackling is still an issue defensively. I thought they had trouble setting the edge, especially in the second half. They were getting outside a little bit too much in the run game. And right there, my biggest issue defensively in this game, and I would have bet my mortgage, thank goodness I didn't, I would have bet my mortgage that Notre Dame was going to prevent Louisville from running the football in a productive manner. And they ended up putting up, 185 yards, 4.6 yards a carry, but 185 yards on this defense. I didn't see that coming.
Most of that in the second half.
Yeah, I thought that they were going to force, Plummer to win this game, and then Plummer would have made the mistakes that he always makes, and, all of those different things. That was not the way this game went down. Like, Notre Dame was just getting gashed in the run game, and that was extremely disappointing to me.
It's disheartening. I mean, disheartening is the word that always comes back to me when I'm a defensive player and I'm just giving a chunk play after chunk play, especially in the second half, running the football. I mean, what are you going to say at that point? I mean, the defensive line, I thought, played well at times, especially in the first half. Second level, I thought the linebackers after that first drive in the second half played pretty well. I saw Maris flash a few times. I saw JD make some plays. Second half, though, you just were getting gashed and gashed and gashed. Like it was one of those things where I feel like hesitation came after the fact, right? Of like second level was just slow diagnosing, getting downhill. And then that's what you said already, Vince, of like, then the safeties got exposed because now they're in an awkward position of trying to fit inside, or they're trying to work out inside out, excuse me, trying to make plays through the perimeter. And unfortunately, that's when you see that like the safety position is not great at Notre Dame right now. It's not. And they didn't play well tonight at all. They didn't play well at all. But that stuff was highlighted most, in my opinion, because in the second half, your defensive line was getting worn down because they've been on the field a ton. And your linebackers were starting to get a little bit gun shy as far as getting downhill consistently. For me personally, I thought the defense showed a lot of good things in the first half, outside of the first drive. And then the second half, I think they just got worn down, man. Like the offense just wasn't helping you. We always talk about complementary football. Isn't that what Marcus Freeman always talks about? The offense didn't complement the defense at all tonight. They put them in an island and were like, all right, keep hitting your head against the wall, and eventually something's going to break. Something's going to break. And it did in the second half. It broke. The dam broke.
Yeah. Louisville also made some adjustments too, Ryan. So Notre Dame kept bringing this one fire, and that 45-yard touchdown run, they slanted, like they ran right at the slant. Like they knew it was coming. I know that for a fact. They knew that was coming, right? And so, but the part of that too, Ryan, is the more plays you have to run, the more plays you give the other team to run, the more they're going to get a read on what you're doing. Right? I mean, that's the other part of it too. But eventually they're gonna figure you out. And the reality is it's like last week, it's like the week before. You can't keep asking this defense to make stop after stop after stop after stop after stop. Eventually, they're going to have a bad half. And when this defense had a bad half, and they did have a bad half for a lot of reasons, Ryan, partially on the offense, giving them short fields. And then it's 24-13. You know, your defense is doing its best, and you decide to go for it on 4th and 11.
You put them
with 9:49 left in the game. And and what did the defense do? What did the defense do? Forced to stop and held them to a field goal.
Yeah.
Right.
They were immediately in field goal range there. I mean, that's,
their
kid had a big leg too. So, I mean, you're automatically in field goal range when you don't get that 4th down.
It was just, why would you do that to them? Why would you put them in that situation?
Right. They were put in some tough situations in this game. That they were.
Yeah.
I don't know what the average start. I think that's in the stat book as far as like the average starting. Let's see here. Own 28 for Notre Dame, and the own 42 for Louisville starting field position.
Was the average?
Yeah. Own 42 was where they averaged their starting position. Wild. That's tough, man. Like you're putting your defense in a tough spot, because if you average on the 42-yard line, you only need to gain about 15 yards to get yourself in field goal range. I mean, 20 yards, but still, like that's a really tough spot to be in, and they continuously put this defense. I don't have like the defense did not lose them this game. I will say that there's plenty to nitpick defensively. They didn't lose this game for Notre Dame.
They did, from the standpoint of this team is still playing like it's 2009, and you can win games 17-14, and the defense gave up more than 17. Right, I'm being a little sarcastic.
Right,
like that's the thing, guys. Is this is a good offense? I mean, they didn't score 30 points. I mean 33 points. They did, but like, say 13 of those were on the offense. Would you guys say?
Yeah.
Like the first drive, that was a masterclass of Jeff Brom of early script. I mean, it was.
Sure. Oh,
it was a great early script.
They had Notre Dame on their heels the whole
speed option. Notre Dame picked it. I mean, they adjusted really quickly. I think the next 3 drives were 3 and outs.
I got it right here. It was touchdown, punt, field goal.
Okay, so they got a first down. So, second drive. Junior missed a tackle, one of 437 that Notre Dame had in this game. And on the next play, he just completely lost contain, got driven off the ball, and they went outside for an 18-yard run. At that point, the defense buckled down. Nana had a big sack on the next play. They threw a seam route on 3rd down. Clarence Lewis played it perfectly, broke up the pass. You guys remember that play. And then it was 3 and out.
3 and out.
And
6 plays for 25 yards.
And then it was the end of the half, right? where Louisville got the ball at midfield, by the way, on that drive. Started the ball at mid.
Yep.
Bro.
Oh, I think we lost. I think we fell victim to the hotel internet with Brian, but I will continue on with what he was saying because the first half, the defense did settle in and did a good job because they went 5 plays for 21 yards, 3 plays for 4 yards, 3 plays for -7 yards, 3 plays for 2 yards. That's 20 yards of offense in 4 drives. And then they give up 6 plays for 25 yards. So 45 yards of offense in 5 drives to finish out the first half. Like, defense is keeping you in the game right now. You know what I mean?
Sure
Like,
is.
they gave up that first touchdown. Okay, I get that. But man, like, they buckled in and they did a good job defensively. Now, way too many missed tackles, obviously, in the second half because when you look at just the drive chart, you can tell that Louisville made some adjustments. Right now, first drive, first play, they fumble. Great play by Cam Hart to get that ball loose and then fall on it. That's a great job. But then after that, they score on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive drives. In other words, they scored on every drive that they had the football outside of the fumble drive. Every single drive ended up with points. That's called adjustments. That's called coaching. And Notre Dame didn't have that, unfortunately. Brian, are you with us?
I think that's a no.
I guess not. He looked deep in thought. So
I'm sure it was a great thought, but unfortunately, it's
I'm sure it was a great thought.
I mean,
anyway,
Vince, I think it really,
go ahead.
It really does illustrate it, though. It really does illustrate it because I think that the easy and popular thing to do in this chat sometimes is fire Al Golden, and I will maintain Al Golden still has his faults as a defensive coordinator, but Notre Dame defensively was left out to dry in this football game a whole lot. They were. I mean, you mentioned it, the field position, the inability for your offense to sustain and create big plays and to score. And you're just putting a defense in such bad positions a lot, which is just, it's very unfortunate, right? I mean, again, we always talk about complementary football. You always talk about complementary football. Your offense did not complement anything tonight. It didn't complement. Your defense held in there as long as it could. And then when the dam broke, the dam broke and it was done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, when the dam breaks, it's hard to make repairs real quick, right? Like it broke.
100%.
Water came out.
I mean,
it's over.
They were getting no help. They were getting no help from the offense. You know what I mean? And again, I thought this defense played about as well as it could for a while. You know what I mean? First half, they made the adjustments. And then the second half, Louisville made the offensive adjustments, right? I mean, if you look at, starting field position, 25, 36, 25, 30, Notre Dame 35, Notre Dame 10, Notre Dame 26. Like those last 3 were in plus territory where they took over the football. The defense held them to field goals all 3 times. I mean, that's saying something, right? Like you're doing the best that you can and you're being given crap field position, just absolutely terrible field position, plus 35, plus 10, plus 26, and you hold them to a field goal all 3 times. What more can you ask for from the defense? Now,
I remember Vince, I remember saying this about the from the offensive perspective, though. I remember saying this because you remember the first couple games of the season, Sam Hartman in that offense was scoring a lot of touchdowns on very long fields, right? Very long fields. And I remember saying, like, that's not a sustainable thing, though, right? Like, you need to fix this field position issue that you're having. And I feel like that came back to haunt him a little bit tonight, to the data that you kind of put out there. So,
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's just, it's frustrating, but I'm sorry. It's not on the defense solely. They just weren't getting any help from the other side of the ball. They just weren't.
Can you guys hear me now? Is it
Yeah,
working
I
again?
can. Yes.
So Ryan, you know what? Something you just said really upset me, because not that you said it, but it upset me. Like, it made me upset. Ryan's like, crap, what did I do? I thought that was a great point. What upset me, Ryan, is like you and I have been on these shows, post-game shows and preview shows. And Vince, you and I have been talking, man, there's been things we've been talking about for weeks that were going to cause problems against better teams. We talked about the way they rotate. I've been talking about the skill rotating for weeks.
Yeah.
It was keeping them from, even before the Ohio State game. We've been talking about how, like, the field position, we've been talking about a lot of these things. And the fact of the matter is, they never got addressed, and part of being a good coach is being able to figure out when there's things that are going on before they become a problem. And I feel like both sides of the ball have struggled with that this season. They really have. Like, it took Al Golden until losing to Ohio State to, like, I gotta let my D line eat a little bit. Why did it take 6 games to figure that out, right? Like, this stuff just kind of goes through and through and through. And that's the frustrating thing, because these are things that just rear their ugly head. But at the end of the day, when your defense plays the way that Notre Dame's has played for this season, they shouldn't be in this situation.
Right.
They've bailed the offense out how many times? And the offense just needed them for 30 minutes to step up. And for 30 minutes, we need you to help us out. Because guess what, guys? Vince, remember 2016 when Brian Kelly was thinking he was going to leave? And then in 17, who was the dude that I kept saying, I want that guy to be the next head coach of Notre Dame? I want that guy to be the next head coach of Notre Dame. It's Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
Right? Because a wicked offensive mind.
Yep.
You were asking Al Golden to shut this dude down for 60 minutes. Man, come on now.
Yeah.
The only reason Tony Gibson did it last week is because of how badly Jack Plummer played, throwing interceptions in the end zone and just, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to shut Jeff Brom down for 60 minutes. Al Gold needed a little help tonight, and he didn't get it from the offense, from the special teams. So yeah, we could pick apart Al Golden and pick apart things he did, but at the end of the day, if you don't play perfect, you can't win or barely win. It's not a defensive problem, guys. And you know what other defenses have games like this? Everyone.
Sure.
Everyone. But other teams have offenses that pick them up.
Right.
And Notre Dame right now does not. At the end of the day. I mean, I don't even feel like, they made some big mistakes tonight on defense. Maris had that really bad penalty. He turned a wheel route loose. Shouldn't have. It's a big mistake. DJ Brown can't tackle in space. Well, duh. We've been saying that for 4 years. Why would you shouldn't have got there. You know what I mean? Josh Burnham, great pressure off the edge. You got to finish, man. Got to finish. Benjamin Morrison, second straight rough game, in my opinion. He made some plays, but he had a second straight game.
He was also lost a couple times. Where
what are you doing?
Surprising.
Well, on the touchdown, he got beat off the line and never recovered.
Yeah.
Maybe because he's like, I've never seen a release move like that. We haven't seen in practice. But yeah, Ryan, that point kind of got to me a little bit that you said is just that the good staffs can look at themselves even when they win and say, yeah, it worked this time, but if we don't get this fixed, it's going to come back to bite us in the butt. And I just don't see enough I don't see them doing enough of the things to recognize those things and to fix it. In all phases.
The thing that I thought was going to come back and haunt them the most was field goal kicking. But oddly enough, Spencer Schrader was awesome tonight and had 2 yarders.
They were over 50.
Yeah.
He can make them over 50. He can't make a 39-yarder, but
yeah, how many records were set for 50+ yard field goals in the same game? Blah 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 blah. So, okay, Spencer, you get yourself a game ball today. You hit your field goals when you had to.
He's got the 2 longest field goals in Notre Dame history, baby. 2
And
longest
he's
ones. Yeah.
what was he, the first Notre Dame kicker ever to hit 250-plussers in the same game? All right, man.
Yeah.
Hey, hats off. Good job. Unfortunately, Notre Dame needed to punch those in for touchdowns and didn't happen. So,
Very fair.
yeah, but hey, defense, again, tackling is an issue still. Dumb penalties at inopportune times, obviously, is an issue.
Yeah.
I think, can we talk penalties overall in this game? Obviously, the number itself, I believe, was down, but the timing of the penalties in this particular game was just brutal. I mean, just backbreaking, frankly. That was, I mean, they only had 3 penalties, but
Is that it?
false start by Blake Fisher on the 3rd and 1. Tough.
Personal foul by Blake Fisher.
Personal foul by Blake Fisher. Those were the only 2 offensive penalties that they had. Okay.
Yep.
And then you got 1 defensive penalty, and that one was going to get them off the field. It was going to be a 3
the Maris face mask.
The Maris one. It was going to get them off the field. So they cut down their penalties massively, but they were the worst opportune penalties ever in this game. So I don't know what I'd rather have. 10 meaningless 5-yard, well, not meaningless, but 10 5-yard penalties like it felt like they had last game, or these 3 penalties for 35 total yards that were absolute game changers. Just, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's still a discipline thing that's missing with Notre Dame a little bit, right? Like, it's not the volume that it was last week, but it's still the timeliness, to your point, Vince. And it's stupid stuff that is just not taught, right? Like the face mask and stuff. Like, I mean, we already talked a lot about the Blake Fisher one, but like even Maris, it's like, to defeat a block, you're not taught to put your hand in a guy's face, right? Like, that's not how you're taught to defeat a block.
But that's the frustrating thing with him, Ryan, is he's done that stuff multiple times. He did that against Navy last year. You guys remember that when we tackled a guy around the face and turned what would have been a 3rd down stop? He did that against South Carolina last year. Did the same thing. Turned what would have been a drive stopper. It's like,
he was falling down and he grabbed the guy's face mask to help him stay up. Like, dude, you're not even a part of the play. Just go to the ground. It's not like,
yeah, it was frustrating. Yeah. It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
And not having Gabriel Rubio didn't help either. I think that helped wear them. That led into them wearing down late in the game as well. It did.
I could see that. I was very nervous when I saw that official announcement come out about an hour before the game. And I saw you tweet about it, and I was like, oh, boy, that's not going to be good.
But Ryan, because we're supposed to be talking about the defense right now, and I want to keep reverting back to the offense and just the big picture stuff. But that you talked about the discipline problem. That is the one thing that hurt the defense tonight. To me, is I thought there were too many times where guys didn't do what we know they're taught to do because they do it so many other times. Benjamin Morrison had that problem tonight. I thought the linebackers had that problem a few times tonight. Some of the penalties. Guys losing contain. That was one thing Ryan. That was probably the biggest issue in the second half. Is Louisville figured out a way to get the edge, and Notre Dame,
they
didn't have a counter for it.
Yeah, they did. I was actually pretty disappointed in the way that Botelho played when he finally came in the second half. He got walled off a few different times. Setting the edge, and then Tui Alamaka got walled off a couple times, and the edge was a problem in this game. It was a problem.
Botelho looked slow tonight, didn't he? Like, he looked slow to me. I don't know why. I think someone in the chat said he looked like he was running in quicksand a couple times. And like, I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I don't know what happened, but he just did not look
because
right.
We got to see Josh Burnham play so much in the first half. He looks.
Josh Burnham is just like Josh Burnham just looks like a kid who's got a ton of talent who doesn't necessarily know the position fully at this point.
And you know what? At this point in time, with 2 losses, I'm letting them learn it. I'm living with the mistakes.
100%. I said it in the pregame show, Brian. I was like, you know what? I'm excited to see these young guys get to play in the first half. And I'll bet you that they make plays in the first half and they're going to earn themselves some more playing time.
Yeah.
And Burnham did. He did make some plays. Now, he was out of position a couple different times.
He's got to finish off on that sack.
I would love to see him get his hands on Caleb Williams next week. Would love it.
But Vince, here's the thing. I can live with a sophomore who's made a position change making that kind of mistake. I'm sick and tired of seeing veterans make these mistakes.
Yes.
That's my frustration.
Because it's an aggressive mistake for a young guy.
Right.
You know?
Like,
and
listen.
I'm cool with that.
Like, listen. If a Don Schuler would have made the mistake that Ramon Henderson made on that third down, hey, man, you're playing a young kid. That's a senior.
Right.
Because in Notre Dame had the perfect call. You guys remember which one play I'm talking about? It was the deep in cut that they ran.
Yeah. He's the one that had to make a tackle.
Louisville ran switches and then an in cut. And the play call was perfect. They were passing off the crossers. So basically they ran across and the linebacker jumped it this way. They brought the other cross over and the safety came down and jumped it. And so when Ramon saw the other crosser, he flinched and let that guy run across his face. If he runs with it like he was supposed to, because they were crossing off, they were switching off, he's in position to make that play. And as soon as they caught it, he turned around and he knew it was him too. And it's just like, that's where I can't live with 6-year seniors getting juked like that in space. I'm tired of living with seniors and 5th-year seniors getting beat in those type of situations. That's when it becomes like this is a problem. Your veterans are the making those mistakes. Like, look, Maris did this, and this. He did some good things, but it's like, dude, you're a 5th-year senior. You can't be making those kind of mistakes. I could live with that if Jalen Snead did it. He's young, he's still learning. But that's the thing tonight is you had a junior who's been starting for parts of 3 years, a 5th-year senior center who started parts of 4 seasons. Like when you see those things happening to the veterans, it's like there is a cultural problem on this team that I did not at all foresee happening.
Yeah.
And they have not reacted to adversity the way that last year's team did. They didn't. They have not reacted to getting punched in the face. But part of it too is I just don't know if there's enough accountability on this football team. And that's true of the defense too, guys, because this will be my one complaint about the defense. When what you're trying to do defensively is so complex that you have to play veterans, and then those veterans keep putting you in bad positions, that's as much on you as it is them. It just is. And that's kind of my frustration. Now, again, the scheme is great. It's good, but Louisville found some answers to it. That's a really smart offensive coach that found answers to it at halftime. You know who else is a really smart coach that makes good halftime adjustments? The dude you're playing next weekend. Yep. And you're going to have to hold USC to 17 points if you want to win next week. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
By the way,
that is not
how about that play Cam Hart made at the beginning of the second half?
That was a great
That's what
play.
I was getting ready to talk about right before my internet went out. It's like 5 drives in a row, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, field goal drive that was missed because the offense gave the ball at midfield. 1 play forced fumble recovery. You give the offense the ball in USC in Louisville territory.
Right.
It's like that kind of stuff was like, wow. Like that's not on the defense. So Louisville eventually, at some point in the third quarter, figured Notre Dame out. It should have been a 13, 14-point game by then, guys.
Yep. Should have been. I agree. Because they got the ball in the Louisville 39 and ended up having to settle for a field goal.
Yeah.
They gained 4 yards. They gained 4 yards on that drive. Right. And, then they go 3 and out. They go 7 plays, kick another field goal, 5 and out. And that's where they go for it on 4th down with 9 and change to go. And then it's interception, downs, garbage touchdown, interception. Like, it's just, it's mind-boggling. And the difference is that was the drive chart for Notre Dame in the second half. The drive chart for Louisville in the second half. Granted, they started out in Notre Dame territory 3 different times, deep in Notre Dame territory 3 different times. I get it, but their second half drive chart was fumble, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, field goal, field goal. They scored on every single drive that they had except for the very first one where they were forced to fumble.
Yeah.
Scored on every drive. Now, defense did a good job holding them to a field goal 3 different times when they started in Notre Dame territory and plus territory. That's a round of applause to the defense, but they still scored on 6 straight drives in the second half. That's called adjustments. That's called coaching, and I didn't see it on the other side.
Yep.
So anyway, we're ready
Every
to get
time
to
we start talking about the defense, I just want to start talking about the big picture stuff in the offense. It's just really
I know. Well, we'll have our opportunity.
And the funny part is that I'm the one that was on the phone with you guys before the show started. Like, okay, stay on topic. Be professional. Stay on topic.
I know, right? I know, right?
Yeah.
We're ready to get to some super chats, Brian?
Yeah, man.
All right. Wait, first of all, before we get to the super chats, make sure everybody, hey, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share with your family and friends, all that fun stuff. It's not a lot of people out there doing the shows after 1 a.m., especially after a game like that. So,
and none of us want to be doing the show right now, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done.
Brian, can I say something real quick before we jump into the super chats? So I just want to, there's been some people that have reached out and I really appreciate it. I said at the top of the show that this has been the worst week of my life. And reason being is because my dad passed away yesterday morning. And so it's been a rough few days, and some people from the IB family have reached out and, let me know that they're praying and all that. And I really appreciate it. It's been very, very tough. And was really hoping for a win tonight, something positive and excited, because I know my dad's looking down. He was a big Notre Dame football fan, and we were in the hospital the past couple of days, and where it was looking bad, and we were talking about Notre Dame football and, what a great season they were having, and it put a smile on his face and all of that. And that was, that was great. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the family here in IB and everything. And I just wanted to say that because this is my escape. This is my, denying reality right now, to be honest with you. And so even though it was the crappiest game that I can remember in a long time, I at least get to hang out with you guys. So I appreciate it. So just want to put that out there because I've been kind of keeping everything kind of close to the vest. So just want you guys to know why I said it was the worst week of my life. So yeah. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there. So I appreciate everybody. And then obviously all the comments now too. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. So anyway, let's jump into some
This is your IB family, man. There's a lot of people here, Vince, that love you, man. Yeah. And I'm glad that you came out with that because there's a lot of people that will be praying for you. And I don't think you understand and appreciate how much people here, like you think I care about you, man. There's a lot of people here that think the world of you. And
it's been tough.
I appreciate you opening up, man.
Yeah, it's been tough, but
yeah,
felt good to do that. And so I appreciate you guys bearing with me. It's been a tough few days. So, all right. Super chats. Ryan, you going to bring them up?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mark Krogan. We're going to go with that. I've never been one to say this, but is Freeman really the guy to lead Notre Dame for the future? I love him, which is why I hate asking. Can't lose these games.
Well, I'll say this, Ryan. He isn't at the present moment, but it's all going to be determined by how much he grows from this, right? I mean, at the lowest moment of last season, after the Stanford loss, Marcus Freeman was like, yeah, this has got to get fixed. And he pushed the buttons and they finished strong, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to find out, right? Because here's the reality, guys. Lou Holtz. Now, I'm not making a direct comparison because Lou Holtz took over a much different situation than what Marcus Freeman took over at Notre Dame, right? He was replacing Jerry Faust and all that. But here's the point I'm making. Lou Holtz is a great coach. Did some great things. His first year at Notre Dame went 5-6. His second year at Notre Dame, things started off pretty well. He had a Heisman Trophy winner. At one point in time, Notre Dame was 8-0. They had just beaten number 10 Alabama, 37-6. Things are looking great. The next week, they lost to Penn State. The next week, they beat 24-0 by Miami. And the next week, they got blown out the next game, Cotton Bowl, they got blown out by Texas A&M. Right? And they were reeling a little bit. And so what did he do? He answered, and the next year, they went 12-1, won a title. I'm not saying this is going to happen at Notre Dame. I'm making a point that what defined Lou Holtz was not that late season streak in year 2. It was how he responded. So Lou Holtz went that, and the story was basically Lou Holtz shared this story that after the bowl game, he goes in the locker room, Vince, and I know you've heard this one. And he says, there's this kid crying, just sobbing in the locker room, just sobbing. And he looks over and it's Chris Zorich. And he's like, he didn't even play. And this kid just is like, he's like, I want more guys like that, more guys that love Notre Dame, more guys that want to be here. And Lou Holtz came in that offseason. And he said that was the toughest offseason workout they ever had. He wanted to know who was really in it, who really wanted to be at Notre Dame. And Coach Freeman is going to have a similar sort of come to Jesus moment, first with himself, then with his staff, and then 3 with his players. And now you find out who really is in it, right? Who's really part of this thing, who really wants to get this thing fixed and leave their legacy at Notre Dame. And so right now, is Marcus Freeman that guy? No. But does that mean he won't be in a month, in a year, in 2 years? No, it doesn't. How he responds to this is going to determine if he is that guy, in my opinion, Ryan.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. You know, I believe in Marcus Freeman, but at this point, it's a simple, got to see it, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it asked me, is Marcus Freeman the guy that's going to take Notre Dame to that next level? I have no idea. I don't know. I'm interested to see if he is. I am very intrigued to see it, and I will be obviously watching very closely of if that happens or not. But
hopefully.
Yeah, sure. I mean, always helpful, but yeah, it's
especially the way he recruits. I mean, that's the thing is like, man, Ryan, if he can coach like he recruits, this team's got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But, you know, his comment after the game, and I believe the comment was something along the lines of this team wasn't prepared for some reason. For some reason. You're the head football coach.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about how this is really the first game we really felt the loss of not having Matt Bayless? Did you guys talk about that?
No, we didn't know that. No.
That's the other thing that kind of creeped in my head is the fact that this team is wearing down the way that they are really, really makes you wonder, you know, like makes you realize just how much you miss not having Matt Bayless.
Sure.
And I would argue Harry Heastan, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah. Kevin, thank you for the super chat. I wish I didn't love Notre Dame. I get that.
I thought about that,
man.
I saw the Georgia's final score, and I'm like, man, imagine being a Georgia fan right now. That sounds like fun. But yeah.
Did they lose to Kentucky?
Oh, no, they smacked Kentucky.
Oh, gotcha.
Destroyed Kentucky.
Oh, you meant that in a good way. Like, man, nice to,
like, wow, 2 straight national championships and still good. Wow.
Yeah, new quarterback, new level, then they're still, rolling. Huh?
Awesome.
Yeah, it must be nice.
Yeah,
Must be nice. Can I say something here real quick? And we're gonna make this is gonna be a much different a bigger conversation at some point in time. I don't know if it'll be this season or in the off season. But I made a comment earlier. It was a bit of a snide comment, but I do mean it, and that is that my one concern whenever you hire a defensive coach is that defensive coaches tend to be they coach like they're still the defensive coordinator. And so the offense is completely geared towards protecting the defense. Well, when we think protecting the defense, that means something very different to a defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator, run the ball, limit possessions. And what have I always said about limiting possessions? That just means instead of losing 41-38, you lose 17-14, like Notre Dame did Ohio State. So yeah, you limited possessions, but guess what? You still lost because they were still the better team. And then I watch Oklahoma today, and I still don't think much of Brent Venables. I think he's a weird dude, but you know what? Brent Venables, a defensive coordinator, realized you want to win at this level, you got to be able to score, and that's the difference. Oklahoma's defense has gotten a lot better, but he lets that offense loose. And that's some of the soul-searching Marcus Freeman's have to figure out. And I'm not talking about hiring a new coach. I'm just about with the staff he has. Hey, guys, I need to turn y'all loose. We're doing too much of this. That's something I want to see that's been really kind of in my crawl a little bit. Just as I'm sitting back watching football, and you're like, everybody else gets that. Everybody else gets that you have to be able to score in college football today.
Ray Price, okay. After watching tonight's game, I'm thinking 8-4 may be a good season. Still pulling for the Irish, very ill prepared. 8-4 is not a good season.
No.
You can make that as a prediction for what is going to happen, but that's not a good season. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Doesn't lower the standard. Yeah.
Appagambino with the massive super chat says, we're thinking about Vince. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. You guys are going to kill me. You guys are going to make me cry on live TV, and I'm going to go internet crazy again.
Viral again.
Jeez, man, it's the last thing I need. All right, the big dog Sean. Has anyone in the media asked if Sam has the ability to even audible? It seems like they just run into so many bad matchups.
Oh, did you guys see that they brought back the scan today? Was that showing up on TV?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
It was. I'm curious how much it showed up on TV, but it was happening more than I care to know. Just look again. It just kind of led into the whole. They don't really know what to do. You know what the scam remind you guys. Vince, you'll appreciate that. Ryan, have you ever seen movie Miracle?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you remember the scene at the end when Kirk Douglas's character was it? What was the name of the coach? Herb Brooks.
Herb Brooks. Yep.
He looks over at the Russian coach and he goes, "He doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't know what. Like that's how I feel right now with Notre Dame.
Because he took his goalie out and
because he I don't know what to do. I don't know what to I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Like I'm just grasping at straws, and that was the frustrating thing from what we saw today. It really felt the last 2 weeks offensively just really felt like, not doubling down on who you are. Hey, this is who we are. We stunk at it against Ohio State. Let's double down. It's like, but it's just kind of like it's like that Ohio State game completely shook their confidence on offense.
Yeah.
And they have not recovered.
It shouldn't
at all.
Like, it's frustrating. Sherwood, thanks for the super chat. Please don't bring up the drive chart. Ugh, too late. Sorry, Sherwood. My bad. Tim Patrick.
Did you bring up what is that? What's the context behind that?
Oh, I don't. He just said don't bring up the drive chart.
Oh, you said my bad. I thought maybe you brought it up early.
Well, we were talking about.
We talked about it during the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Tim Patrick, thank you very much. In case my comment on X was missed, most chicken war daddy I've ever seen.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Tim.
He tagged us on something on Twitter, but I didn't know what. I still don't know what it means.
I haven't been paying attention.
I'd just be curious, Tim, who you're referring to, and then I'll be able to respond.
For sure. Matt Sokolowski, thank you very much. If I performed this bad at my job, I would be fired. I mean, I get that. I did mention this earlier, Brian. Everybody was calling for so many of these assistant coaches to lose their jobs like right now. That's just not realistic. I mean, it's not realistic to fire a bunch of assistant coaches because then there's nobody left to coach the team for the rest of the year. It's just you evaluate things when the season is over or throughout the season, whatever. But you can't just get rid of a bunch of assistants. This isn't like the NFL where there's like assistants to the assistants and all these other different like you can't do that.
Even the NFL doesn't do it like that though either.
Right.
I mean,
that's
true.
Like
you fire a coach and you have an interim for the rest of the year. It's not like you fire multiple coaches.
The only people that get fired in the middle of the season are head coaches or people who did something wrong. And look, Notre Dame doesn't have an experienced play calling analyst on the sidelines like Chip Long, who, by the way, is an offensive analyst at Louisville. By the way, so I mean, who are you going to turn to?
Right, exactly.
Who's the coach? Who are you going to hurt? You're going to have, I mean, you got two former offensive coordinators on. Yeah, but you're telling me he doesn't have a say in, like, he's.
Oh no, I know. I'm not. I'm just saying, like that. I guess where my mind would go that he would be the guy. I guess
Right. The leaders take the guys. The leaders lead. They don't blame. They're going to start firing people. You sit down, you have a conversation. Hey, look, here's what's expected of you. Here's what I need you to do. Here's the time frame in which you had to do it. And if you don't get it done, then I'm going to move on. That's what leaders do. Right. And also we don't do that here anyway. That's not our job. That's not our thing is not to call for people to get fired. If I called now and said they need to fire that guy, guess what? Because trust me, there's some people in Notre Dame I like to be fired. They're not coaches, but I'll share with you guys later. But
is there a new story?
that's not my job. That's not what we do. It doesn't matter. If I say I want this person fired, you know how many people in Notre Dame are going to listen to that and care? You know how many people in Notre Dame will listen to that and should care?
Exactly. Tony Stangel, awful. That's it. Just awful. Yeah, you're not wrong. It was awful.
Yep.
Agreed. I don't know what else to say to that one. Ryan Haley, Brian said, if Notre Dame lost this game, I think we have to start thinking it's an OC problem. Now it's a reality.
I don't remember saying it quite like that, but yes, it's a problem. Like Ryan, I'm sorry, go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I said earlier in the show that if you told me there was one offensive coordinator the first 4 games and there was a different offensive coordinator the last 3 games, I would have believed you. That's how different things are. The creativity is gone. It's just, I don't know. I would have believed you that if that was the case, and I don't know what changed. I honestly don't know what changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why part of me, guys, just has to wonder if this is deeper than just the offensive coordinator. Because it's like this is 2 coordinators in a row that we've had this problem. Right? Where it's just like, so I start saying eventually maybe this is the offense that the head coach wants.
Oh, God, I hope not.
But he thought that it would work. I'm not saying Marcus Freeman wants them to score 17 points against, or 14 against Ohio State. But I'm saying it's like the style that leads to this lack of success is what he wants. And it's just, and look, guys, here's the deal. I like Marcus Freeman a lot. I think he's a good man. I want him to be successful. I think there's just a lot about him as a person I like. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's done a lot of good for the program in certain ways. But the reality is if a Brian Kelly coach team was doing what Marcus Freeman's, we'd be ripping them. And as much as I always said, I didn't rip Kelly because I didn't like him. I ripped him because it was deserved. And I'm not ripping Marcus Freeman right now because I dislike him. Matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. I'm quite fond of Marcus Freeman, but this isn't about who I like or don't like. I'm quite fond of Jared Parker as a person. But this isn't about that. This is about football. And the fact of the matter is that Marcus Freeman has not been able to push the buttons in the last 3 weeks to get this team going. And the other thing too, Vince, and the reason I'm saying this because it leads to your point about the different coordinators. Why do one if when the schedule gets tough, you're going to do the other? Like lean into that.
Yes.
Right? Like lean in. If that's who you want to be, lean into that and get great at it the first 4 games. And then you're really ready to rock and roll with it when you get to games 5, 6, and 7 when the schedule heats up. Lean into it. Don't come out and be one team the first 4 games. Hey, we'll throw the ball down the field, riff off a bunch of 40-yard plays against a bunch of teams that suck, and then go away from that when the going gets tough. Right. And just completely give up on certain players. Exactly. And it's like, because you didn't develop Tobias Merriweather and you gave up on him, you put Rico Flores in a situation that he shouldn't have been in tonight. And he wasn't able to make that play because you're asking him to be something he's not right now.
Right.
That's on you guys. That's on you guys. We held Brian Kelly's staff accountable for those type of things. We're going to hold Marcus Freeman's staff accountable for those things. Do I like it? No. Do I enjoy it? No. But it's the truth. At the end of the day, guys, when your team shows up as ill-prepared as Notre Dame did this week on offense and to a degree on defense, but much more so on offense, when your special teams goes from what it was last year to what it is now, like, who made that hire?
Yeah.
Right? The offensive line has regressed. The further away they get from the Harry Hiestand era, they've regressed. Well, who made that hire? You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you're the head coach and you got to be accountable. And I hope Coach Freeman figures it out. But right now, the decisions he's made and the things that he wants from this offense, it's not working. Your offensive coordinator loves RPOs. I know that this is true. But we don't see him very much. Why?
Yeah.
Whose decision is that? Whose call is that? I honestly don't know. That's not a rhetorical question. That's a genuine question.
It's a
I want to
legit
know who
question,
the
yeah.
answer is to
Right.
that is. Is just Jared Parker kind of puckers up when he gets into big moments, or is the head coach saying no, we're, does the head coach view those as too risky? I don't know the answer to that. But the fact is that there's just a lot of things that just aren't working right now. And there's a lot of buttons that can be pushed, guys, and we're just not seeing them try some of those buttons. And then the ones they do button, it's like, with who you are as a team, Ryan, why is that your answer? Like, what?
I have no answer to that. I've none. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to give this like just wonderful answer, but I have no idea. Zero idea.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, go back. We didn't do that other one.
Oh shoot. Okay,
Get
go
rid
to
of
this
it.
one and I'll try to find that one.
Yeah, no problem. Rudy Wave 84. My biggest concern is the O-line play the last 2 weeks. What is going on? Playing poorly.
Playing really bad. You're getting punched in the mouth and you're not punching back. I mean,
it's like they're playing poorly and then they double down by rotating other guys that have never played this year. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we didn't play well. Let's try some other guys in random positions at random times. And I don't know. I just don't know. And they didn't play any better than the other guys. And so that's clearly not the answer. So
yeah.
I mean, Vince, the thing, real quick, Vince, while we're chatting about this, can you go try to find the super chat right before this one? This one is at 12. This one is 11:24. I can't go back any further because I joined the show a little too late. So I can't go back beyond 12:42. But like, Ryan, you and I discussed, I know this for a fact. I think it was you and I, but we discussed during fall camp that, look, if you're going to go Billy Schrauth, Pat Coogan, that's fine. I understand why you're doing it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. But hey, how about you work that young guy in a little bit in some of these early games against teams that aren't any good?
Yeah.
Get him some time. And you waited till game 7 to do that against Louisville? Like,
and the question would again arise is whose decision is that? Right. I mean, because it's like we can point at Joe Rudolph and maybe it is his idea, but I mean, is it an offensive coordinator decision that happened? Is this a collaborative effort? Is the head coach like, hey man, we need to get this guy going? Like it was not only that just the timing was poor, I also think that the rotation just didn't make any sense to me either. It wasn't like Billy's in every other series for Rocco, like let's say in a scenario. It's like they're completely rotating their guard, their guard duo, and then the center was changing, and it was weird. I didn't get it at all. A position that is built off of consistency and rhythm is being put off of rhythm consistently. I don't know.
Because Ryan, you and I have always said, if you're going to rotate an offensive line like that, it has to be practiced a lot because it requires that cohesiveness. When Notre Dame rotated Robert Hainsey and Tommy Kramer in 2017, every other series, they practiced that. It was part of just who they were.
Yeah.
You don't just and again, if you're going to do that with like Andrew Kristofic, I would have understood it more because he's played a bunch.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you did it with a kid that's never played. That's again, Vince, to the point you made earlier. It's the job of a coach to put players in the best position possible, and then the players got to go execute. And tonight, there were times when guys were put in position to execute, and they didn't execute. But too many times tonight, you also look at and say, "Why are you asking him to do that? Why are you putting him in a position to do that? That's not on Rico Flores. Yeah, Rico's got to he's got to play better for the ball. He's got to get better. But why are you asking him to? Why are you all of a sudden elevating Rico Flores to the position of you're our number one dude? That's not fair to him right now. Let him play. Why was he so effective early on? He's playing a very complimentary role. And I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. You said you found it, Vince?
I did find it, sir. Here we go. Right here from J.A.D. Allen 33. Sure. Marcus Freeman's game management is starting to put off James Franklin vibes.
Ooh.
It's just so inconsistent, Ryan. That's the thing for me is like there's things he does that I love. Like I loved the fake punt last week. Loved it.
Yeah. Sure.
Loved it. And then there's other times you're like, hold on a second, you're going to go for it there, but you're going to punt here or fake a, it's like, I don't understand what you're doing. Again, it just comes down to, guys, there's no consistency. There's no like, this is just who Marcus Freeman is.
Yeah.
Right. Like when he gets in those situations, he's going to do this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what was the earlier in the game, like a couple drives before the let me find it. There was a couple drives before it was the third possession on when they kicked the field goal. It was like 4th and 3. They were in Louisville territory and they kicked a long field goal. They ended up making it. But it's like, you're going to kick a 54, you're going to settle for a 54-yard field goal there.
Yeah.
But you're with 9:49 left, you're going to go for it on 4th 11 and deep in your own territory. It just, and then when you get a timeout, like when they called timeout, like maybe, Ryan, maybe they could have caught him in something real quick. 4th and 11, let's catch him in something. But when they called timeout.
Yeah. Well, I thought when the timeout got called that it was Notre Dame that called the timeout because I thought they were bluffing the whole time, to be honest. I thought they were just bluffing.
Nope.
And it was weird. It was a weird. I hate to be this person, but like, is it analytically driven? I don't know.
Right.
Do the analytics say that those were good decisions? I don't know, man. Like, I don't. Analytics would probably tell you not to kick the field goal there, I guess. I don't know. It's just very bipolar, I guess is the word. Like, I don't know. It's
exactly
it's
right.
Weird
Because there's no consistency. We're like, you know what? I know this guy. That's just who he is.
Right.
I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but it's just who he is.
And you can't, because I've seen several people say tonight, like, oh, Tressel's his mentor, so like he plays like Tressel, and Tressel was conservative, right? Like he was like that type of guy. But like you going for it on 4th and 11 with 9 minutes left is not conservative. That is like overly aggressive to like a extreme level. Like that's like an extremist thing.
Right. He fakes a punt last week on the first drive against Duke. Right. Like that's a thing that's frustrating. Is like there are times when it's like, yeah, I like that call. I like that. Take that chance. Let your offense do this. There's been 4th downs they've gone for it this year.
Yeah.
That have been those kind of plays. And then there's other times you're just like, you gotta, if you're gonna be aggressive, it has to be who you are.
Yeah.
It can't just be, well, we're gonna be aggressive in these times. Because then your players are going to be like, well, wait a minute. Who are we really? Are we this guy or are we that guy?
Yep.
And that's the thing. There's just no consistency there. Oh, man.
Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. I was waiting for this one, or for one from him. All right. This was embarrassing. What is the game plan with Parker? This is Tommy Rees 2.0. This team really brought in Sam for what? Should have just kept Pine if this is the game plan. Just super disappointed.
So when this is Tom Rees 2.0, okay, I understand what you're saying, but here's what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. When people start saying that, you got to ask yourself, what's the common denominator? It's kept saying when Notre Dame finally gets a quarterback, man, well, they got a quarterback. And you turned them loose the first few weeks. And the last 3 weeks, you've handcuffed them. Like Tommy Rees did like, oh, this was a Tommy Rees Drew Pine game plan. Well, maybe it wasn't a Tommy Rees game plan. Right? What's the common denominator, guys? I mean, Marcus Freeman has always said, we're going to run the offense I want to run. That's all he said. And that's how it should be. I mean, honestly, he's the head coach. That's how he should be.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying, coach, listen, I think you got all the tools in the world to be great here, but you got to understand, man, this isn't 2002. This isn't 2009. You can't be aggressive at times, right? We always say this, players, you can't turn the switch on and off, guys. Well, neither can coaches. That's either who you are or it's who you're not. And if you want to be this conservative guy that, wants to run the ball and do these things and not take chances, then don't be that. Don't be the opposite guy in the first 4 games.
Right.
Steer into it. And that's the thing is like, you gotta figure out who your identity is, but you also have to make sure that fits and that you can win at a place like this. And the other thing too is like, look, guys, right now Notre Dame says they're going to be a team driven by the play of their offense, their lines. And right now, their offensive line has gotten their butt kicked 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
That's who you are.
Jack, this is without a doubt the worst performance under Freeman. My only thought the entire game was this team doesn't want to play football, and it shows. No drive, no fight, just flat and lost.
Okay, this was without question the worst performance of this season.
Go watch Stanford last year.
And go watch Marshall last year.
Yeah.
Both worse teams and worse
Yes.
losses.
I mean, this was a ranked team at the end of the day. I mean, it's not an
There's
excuse.
no excuse. Yeah,
It's not an excuse, but this was at least a ranked team. Like Stanford was one of the worst Power 5 teams on the planet.
They had not lost a game to a Power 5 team in over a calendar year. They had not won a game over a Power 5 team in over a calendar year when they beat Notre Dame. The only win they had from the time they beat was at Oregon in 2021 when Joe Moore was. I think that was the last game they won. And the only other win they had during that stretch was over Colgate. And they came into Notre Dame Stadium and beat them last year. Like, that's...
And I saw someone earlier say...
October 2nd.
And I saw someone earlier say that Louisville stinks or something. I'm like, they're 6-0 guys. But all right, cool.
Okay. Like, here's the thing. Here's what frustrates me, Ryan, is because too often we have fans that just... And I get it, guys, where you just want to, the other team sucks. The other team sucks. The other team sucks. And if you don't have a healthy understanding of who the other team is, then you don't have an appreciation for how good the wins are when you get them.
Yeah.
Right. And look, but we can sit there and say, guys, Louisville's a good football team. Jeff Brom is a good football coach.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is a guy that I had said in the past I wanted to replace Brian Kelly. I'm not saying I want that to happen now. He's got his job. Marcus Ream's the head coach. I want Marcus Ream to be successful. The point is, like, this is a guy I have a great deal of respect for. And there's some coaches on that staff I have a great deal of respect for. He's done a great job at Louisville this year. We can say, tip of the cap to you guys, man. You guys coached your butts off tonight. Your players were ready to play in this moment tonight. Your guys were ready for the prime time. Tip of the cap to you. And say, boy, that's a talented football team. We can say that and still say, there's no reason Notre Dame should have lost that football game. We can do both.
Yeah.
Because both are true.
Correct.
Louisville's a good football team. They got talent. They got athletes. They got good coaching.
A lot of athletes. Yeah.
Notre Dame shouldn't have lost the game the way they did tonight. No reason for that. We can. Both of those things are true. Both of those things are true, and that's not a response necessarily to what Jack said, but just more of just some other things. But yes, there have definitely been worse performances than what we saw tonight.
Joe Papati, not going to watch, but going to leave this here. Freeman, yet again, did not have his team ready. The whole staff needs to be reevaluated. Vince, huge condolences. Start all the underclassmen. Done. And then it's like a mic drop. He's out.
I appreciate you, Joe. I mean, Vince, you can't do that, right?
No.
But there are some situations where you need to be rethinking your personnel.
Yes. You need to rethink the rotation and things of that nature. I agree with that.
Your playoff hopes are done. You're not a playoff team. We're not going to talk about the college football playoffs anymore for Notre Dame.
That's right here. That's the top thing on the list right here.
But you need to be thinking about, okay, what change do we need to make? And I'm not talking about like bench and Sam Hartman. I'm not talking about that. But like there are some positions where it's like, okay, if this has been an issue for a minute, you got to make a move. If you're not having faith in your left guard but you don't want to put a younger guy out there, okay, fine. Maybe that's true beforehand, but you got 2 L's now, and your offensive line has played terrible.
Yep.
Get those younger, talented guys some time now. Build them, because you don't see this thing through. Now, you can't do it, mass do it, but there are a couple positions to me where you need to be thinking about, the only reason we have you out there is because you're a veteran and you're playing like that.
Right. But you don't just bench all the seniors.
Right.
Like,
Joe knows that. Joe knows that. He's frustrated.
Some of the people don't know that are in the chat right now.
Well, I think they do. They're just pissed, and maybe there's a couple that don't, but that's just there's every fan base has them.
Yeah,
every fan base has them.
All right, Raymond. Thank you very much. At least I got to rock my IB Adidas white pullover to dinner tomorrow night. O-line suck, but hey. At least Rudolph doesn't cuss like Harry Heastand.
Well, it's like you remember when everybody was like, "Oh, Chip Long got fired because he was too hard on the players, and he was meaning." Blah. Well, you know what? Chip Long's offensive were always freaking physical, and they could score. So But at least they don't yell at him. At least they don't cuss at him. So they can feel better about themselves as they catch L's.
Of course.
So sure.
Frank G, thanks very much. This team has some soul searching to do after this one, period, from coaches all the way down to players.
They had soul searching to do last week, though. At some
Yep.
point, something needs to happen.
Yep. I mean, how did the Ohio State game not wake them up a little bit?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Ryan, you nailed too. Like there was how did the offensive line like not look at the film last week and say that's never going to happen again?
I mean, we literally talked about it on the post-game show last week of like, hey, you got to win, but like offense needs like reevaluation now, like today. Yeah. But yeah.
Yep.
Jay Dallin 33 with another super chat. Are you concerned that Notre Dame at multiple positions, O-line, wide receiver, quarterback, seems to be regressing as the season progresses?
Big time. I don't know what about you guys, but big time.
The first
Sam Hartman's
not the last one.
I'd say the last one. I'm concerned because Sam Hartman has not played good football last weeks. I just don't think it's on Sam Hartman.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not worried about him. Yeah. I'm worried about the play that's around him that's forcing him to play poorly.
The question for me, Vince, the way I took it is, are you concerned that multiple positions seem to be regressing as the season progresses? Well, I am concerned about the regression at quarterback. But my concern is not the player at quarterback. It's the circumstances around it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rye.
Oh, no, I was going to say I could be reading too far into the question, but like I think that's trying to and J.A. Dallin, I really apologize if I'm wrong on this one. But when I read that question, I was thinking like, what's the source of it not happening? And my mind goes to coaching, right? As far as like, where's the blame get passed? And I think that Vince, you correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think that's where your mind's going is like, I'm not blaming Gino on this. Like, it's not Gino's fault that it's regressing, like that type of thing. You know what I mean?
Agree. It's a coaching thing. And for Sam, to me, guys, it is hard as I think the only quarterback of the group. It is hard to sit in the pocket and comfortably go through all your progressions when you feel there's a pretty darn good chance I'm not going to have a lot of time to throw this football. Because what people don't realize is once your mental clock gets sped up, it's sped up even on plays where they're not pressuring you.
Exactly.
It's just it's the anticipation of the pressure. And then when you're not really putting your quarterback in position to, like, I'm watching the Texas-Oklahoma game. I'm like, this is a master class in coaches that are good at designing ways to get certain guys the football in certain situations.
Right.
And we just don't really see that from there. It's just, they're just running schemes, but there's no like, they do this personnel, this motion, this alignment, because it's all geared towards getting this guy open on this route. Actually, they did that once tonight that I remember. Well, 2 times. One went to Mitchell Evans, 3. One went to Mitchell Evans on the deep. One was an in cut to Mitchell Evans, and then the overthrow to Jordan Faison. That's a concept that we've been talking about. Get that backside safety to come down, bring that over the top. We've Ryan, you and I have broken that down.
Yeah,
but there's just so little of that, and it's just like, why are we just now seeing that? That's the thing is like, so that to me is much more of an issue than Sam Hartman, but it's yeah. So I agree with you, Ryan. It is a coaching thing. Quarterback is regressing. Sam Hartman has regressed. He's not the player who was at Wake Forest, but is the problem Sam Hartman? I don't think it is. And I don't think all the reasons are just, they're young on receiver. They're not very talented receiver. Bull crap. Right. They're not what Texas has, but they should be way better than what they are. I'm sorry. Well, 4 catches for 18 yards from your outside receivers. Give me a break.
It's really bad at wide receiver right now. Pass catcher. I mean, because I'll put it like this: right now, Mitchell Evans is by far your best pass catcher, and he should be like your second or third best pass catcher on a good offense. You know what I mean? Like he shouldn't be that guy, but he has to be
good.
That guy.
He's not
Michael. He's the only one that steps up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But they're asking him to be that.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though, guys, he's the one guy that tonight had sort of that get me the flipping ball mentality. He's
Agreed.
it. He's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. A Clayton 47 with the 3320 super chat. I got to throw that out there because I'm glad he didn't do it the other way. I mean, I'll take that.
Yeah,
There's a bonus
133.
for us.
Yeah.
You know, probably should have gone the other direction, but that's okay. The only good thing to come out of this is that Clemson tickets should be cheaper.
Here's the problem. I bought tickets to the Clemson game for my parents 3 weeks ago.
Buyer's remorse.
Big time.
Sorry, I should not be laughing. It's getting late. All right. Oh, this is a new one. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Thistle More Pottery. Thank you for the super chat. Have DC's figured out Parker, and he just hasn't been able to adjust. So many head scratchers over the last 2 weeks. The D is missing tackles all season. So many stupid penalties. This is not a well-coached team. Is Marcus Freeman over his head?
I mean, there's a lot there to unpack, guys. I mean,
Yes, there is. That's a week's worth of shows right there.
I mean, Vince, that'll kind of be part of what we'll discuss in some of our stuff coming up this week. But have they figured them out? Look, guys, that happens all the time. You are who
Right.
you are. People get
Sure.
film of you. You always have to be adapting and adjusting and adding new wrinkles. And the wrinkles Notre Dame is adding right now are not working.
But here's the thing. Here's what I will say to that, right? His opening series, his scripted series are pretty good. Like
Yeah.
the opening drives over the last few games have been good. It's what happens when now you're going off
finish.
script and
Yeah.
you're, all of those different things. So I don't know that defensive coordinators have figured him out per se, because I still think he has really good stuff. It's just I don't know.
I think they have, because they basically said we're gonna not let you run the ball down the middle anymore. And
Fair enough.
To your point off the script, it's like, well, once you get off script, okay, great. That's kind of a big part of being a good coach, is what you do when you're
No
not on
doubt.
script anymore.
Well, and as Ryan and I both pointed out, like as an offensive coordinator, play caller, you make your money on third down.
Yeah, they're
Right?
terrible on third down. And
You make your money on third down, and they have been putrid on third down. I think it's 3 or 6 for 26 or something like that over the last 2 games. Terrible.
Brutal. What was it tonight,
Terrible.
Vince? I know it was really bad tonight.
3 for 13, I want to say.
And then they get a couple of those late when the game was basically over.
Yeah, both 2 of them, I think.
Yeah.
So they were 3 for 13. Yep. So not great. Sherwood with the super chat. A head coach with no head coaching experience, a DC out of the college game for going on a decade, an OC who was cashiered from his only OC job after 1 year on the job. How did any of us think this would go any differently?
Well, there's a lot of spin there, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
But he was not yeah. Appreciate the super chat.
Yep. Jacob Saylor, thank you. Should have just paid the buyout. I'm usually not that guy, but OC and O-line coaches got to go. Still hate BK, though.
No, I'm with you on that. Like, look, I'm not ready to say Marcus Freeman ain't that guy. But I will say Marcus Freeman's going to have to he's going to have to do some soul searching. Right? Because, look, last year's team, I felt, really handled adversity well. This year's hasn't. He's got to figure out why. Why has this team not answered the bell the way the last year's team did?
You got to push different buttons with different teams, and I don't want to say that his shtick is getting old, and I shouldn't say shtick.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not. Yeah,
that's not what I mean. But like,
right.
You've still got to be able to reach different groups, different guys in different ways. Yeah, that's what coaching's all about.
And this is all part of the learning experience for him. Like, of course, we thought there were going to be some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
It's like, and I would, if you'd have told me beginning of the year Notre Dame's one loss is going to be to Louisville, I said, yeah, okay, I could see that. I could have seen it being Duke, but it's like, but it doesn't happen to Ohio State and Louisville. And again, both times you're just like, that's not a game they should have lost. And that's the frustrating thing is, again, 17-13, and you run a play to get you 30 yards, and it comes back because put you in deep in Louisville territory. You get all the momentum back, and it comes back because it's just something stupid. Because right now, at the end of the day, Notre Dame is a very undisciplined football team right now.
Fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair. Kevin Fetters, thanks a lot. Fail and disappointment. Why the tight boxes on every third and short and no estimate on early thirds and shorts, not the injury down. I realize if the plays hit great, but such low chance plays.
Yeah, again, it's what because the third down package guys, it seems to be they just call plays, and they have certain personnel for certain when they go like 12 personnel, like they have their 12 personnel receivers and 12 personnel back. And it's the same thing that they did against Ohio State. Look, when we go 21, we put Jeremiah Love and Devin Ford in the game.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I get that, but you should have put Audric Estime in the game there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like there's got to be some situational awareness of that, and that's what I think has been a bit of a problem for me. And it's played a factor on third down, in my opinion.
Caleb Collins, crazy concept. When you can't get off press man, go to bunch or motion receivers.
We've talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't hide from it, though. Eventually, you're going to have to beat press coverage. So you can't hide from it all the time. But
Right.
You have a solid point, though, Caleb. You have a solid point.
You have to be able to mix it up. And Ryan, you and I talked about this last week. This isn't new. But the other thing to your point, Ryan, is you've got to have a better game plan for beating press than just what they're doing now. It's like the same. There's like, guys, I coach Division III receivers to have better press moves than this. And I'm not trying to say that to be flippant. My point is, it doesn't take an elite 5-star athlete to have a better pass release repertoire than what the Notre Dame receivers have shown. It's a stutter release outside. There's no threat. And they're all doing it. At some point in time, when one guy does it, like maybe Jaden Thomas just isn't good at it, which is why none of us thought he was an outside receiver. But when it's your entire room doing the same thing and it's not working for anybody, at what point in time do you say, maybe I'm the problem and get it fixed?
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you for the super chat. I just told my wife I will be attending a wedding next Saturday night.
I get it.
I can't say I blame you, man. I get it. Aiden Benami, thank you very much. So many bad coaching decisions, play calls, and game management. No way this tough stretch caused them to lose. Yeah. There are growing pains, though. My stomach hurts. Is Cam Williams suited up yet?
Yeah, I don't want to hear the whole. The schedule was not set up well. But even in our preseason, where should the bye have been? We all said it should be before USC. It should have been before Louisville, right? Because you had Navy, who you blew out. Your second game of the year, your quarterback was out at halftime.
Right.
Central Michigan, you know what? That would have been a great opportunity for you guys to get certain guys into the game early in the game, and you didn't do it. You chose to start Jack frickin' Kaiser at Mike linebacker. That's not a knock on Jack Kaiser. It's not a frickin' Mike linebacker. That's a coaching decision. Your starters barely played like beyond 3 quarters in 3 of your first 4 frickin' games, and you pulled your starters on defense at the end of the NC State game as well. Steve Angeli got in the game at the end of the NC State game, and you had a 2-hour break in between. I'm sorry, Duke and Louisville should not have been your we've just been tapped out moments. Could you imagine like playing in the SEC West or the Big Ten East and having or the Pac-12 and having the mindset of, man, we just by week 6 we got no energy left. I don't want to hear that. Is this team tired? Yeah, I'm sure they are. But that shouldn't be why Blake Fisher committed that penalty or jumped off, had a false start, or why the offensive line has had, 5 or 6 false starts the last 2 weeks. That's not because you're tired, because your schedule. It's because you don't have focus, because you're not a mentally tough. This is not a mentally tough football team, at least on offense. I got to say, the defense had some struggles tonight, but I never thought like they just flat quit.
Right.
I mean, they still battled. It just, Louisville had their number tonight at times. That happens in football. But if the offense would have done what they needed to do, it wouldn't have mattered.
David Carpenter, you may be at a wedding, and I will be watching a funeral. Hope you have fun. Up. Wow.
Yeah.
That is messed up, man.
Guys, I just want to break it to you. USC is tied with Arizona with 24 seconds left.
Yeah, but they are on the 6-yard line.
I get that. Louisville's a much better football team than Arizona.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
And it's at home. Okay.
Also
and Jade Delorier, the starting quarterback, did not play tonight for Arizona. So
But the problem is Notre Dame's going to need to score at least 28 points.
I get that. I get that. I get that.
Paul Hamilton, honest question. Do we need to reassess where the program is and what the expectations should be? ND is nowhere near title contention.
Should never address the I will look, if you want someone to tell you that the expectations for the Notre Dame football team have changed, this is not your show. Because I will never lower the standard at Notre Dame. Now, there may be years where I say this football team may not be able to get there. That's fair.
Right.
But no, the expectation should never change. Should we reassess where the program is right now? Absolutely, that's a fair conversation to have. No question. Right. And maybe, Paul, you mean something different by expectations. Maybe you mean just specifically for this team, and that's fine if you do. But when I think expectation, to me, it refers to the standard. And I will never lower the standard. I will never get an excuse making of, well, they can't win because insert excuse.
Right.
I didn't buy it when Brian Kelly gave it. I won't buy it if Marcus Freeman gives it. And I don't think Marcus Freeman is going to give it. I don't think he's making those excuses. But should we reassess where this program is? Absolutely, guys. I mean, we thought that this is a team that had was a dark horse to be a playoff contender this year. They definitely didn't think they'd be done before the end of October 7th. You know what I mean? So yeah, this program is not where we hoped it would be and where it should be right now. So yeah, that needs to be reassessed. Absolutely. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm not changing next. This is Notre Dame.
And you never should. You never should.
No.
And they may never hit it, but you should never
Right.
lower the expectations. Ever. Relly Q, I mean this as profoundly as you can take it. Notre Dame's identity in my lifetime has been reduced to just being a signature win for another program.
Yep.
Ouch.
He's not wrong.
I hate to say it, but you're right.
He's not wrong.
What's funny to me though is when you talk about the national media, they never give Notre Dame like any kind of respect, but when they get beat, it's a signature win.
Yes.
Like I always find that to be very interesting, but that's a different conversation.
Yep.
Sean O'Hara, Ryan, bro, love you, but move the boom back. The mic works without blocking your head.
Nope. I can do what I want.
We got directors everywhere. Matt, 2011 GT, is that Coach Parker running the Irish breakdown backdrop? Oh,
I think that came out when the CFB Nation crew.
Yes.
So when they went live, they changed the colors. And sometimes for some reason, when you change it in one StreamYard thing, it'll change it in the other.
It did. It was
And
fun.
So
it was exciting. It was, just,
was that you that fixed it, Vince, or?
I fixed the background. He fixed the color. It was
Gotcha.
It's a team effort, man. That's what we do.
While you guys were recording the show, it was very well done.
Yes.
Very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Collins. Parker runs offense like Brian Van Gorder ran defense. Nothing makes sense.
Okay. I mean, if you want to give super chats to Vent, I appreciate it.
Yep. Caleb Collins. Parker will make Grinch look like a genius next week.
That's impossible. Stop.
Caleb Collins.
So you want to give us money to Vent? Go for it, bro.
Right.
I appreciate you.
Caleb Collins. Does Parker not know how to use motion or bunch?
This whole bunch thing, like Notre Dame runs a ton of bunch.
They used bunch
They
and
also use
got
motion.
blown up.
So.
Right.
Like
They also use motion.
Now
They
we
just
can-
don't use the right person on motion.
And we don't, and I don't think their motions have as much. They're not used in the way that they should be using those things. But they literally motion a guy on almost every single play.
Yep.
Obi Kenobi. Do you think coaches lost the team to a
Love
certain
that.
extent after their blunders against Ohio State and Duke? Players look disinterested.
No, I don't think if that's true, then that says a lot about the players. To be honest with you, that says a lot about the lack of leadership from a player level. If what happened at the end, like, could you imagine if the Notre Dame the coach is like, just, hey, we're gonna not have faith in you guys anymore because you made this one mistake. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, if that's true, then that says more about the players than it does the coaches. I don't think they look disinterested. I think they look like they don't have answers. There's a big difference between, because I don't think at any point in time, like the defense, for example, they didn't look like they didn't play hard tonight. I thought they played hard tonight. I didn't think they played well all the time, but it was never a lack of like, man, they're just getting blown off the ball and the pads aren't popping. I never thought that was an issue tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. So B. James still can't get on the field. Why? He's not
Charlie,
ready.
don't
What else
ask
to
those
tell you?
questions, man. They're not going to play him. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
It's not like they're afraid to play freshmen. So
Right.
they're playing a walk-on freshman. So obviously he's not ready. We don't know the details, but he's not
Yep.
ready.
He's not ready, but again, I point to when your outside receivers are playing this poorly, then freaking get them ready.
Fair enough.
That's my whole thing. Can he possibly be worse? So if you throw a fade to him next week, it gets picked off. Is that really worse than what happened when you threw fades today to other guys? Right? This is the whole thing. He's not ready. I get that. But at some point in time, it's like your outside receivers stink right now. Can he really be that much worse? Maybe. Maybe he can't be better than 4 catches for 18 yards. Maybe.
Matt, is there someone else on staff that can call plays on offense?
The only person that has experience, I guess, would be Gino. But
Joe Rudolph called plays at Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, Joe Rudolph. Yeah.
But he has his hands full right now. Getting that offensive line to play better.
You're not wrong,
Guys. They're not gonna demote Jared Parker right now in the middle of the year. It's about
Jacob
getting him
Saylor. Did you see when Hartman was like, "What are you doing?" to the QB coach, and the coach goes, "I don't know."
I didn't see that. Did
I
you
didn't
guys see
see
that?
that
I
either.
didn't watch TV.
I didn't see it.
I was in the press box. I didn't see that.
David Kirkpatrick, thank you.
I just
very
love
much.
the sound effects Vince gave on that. That was great.
I don't know.
We've
Was
passed,
that Gino or Sam? Was that
we've
Gino or
passed
Sam?
the wit. No, it was. I don't know. That's Gino.
That was Gino.
We've passed the witching hour, so you don't know what you're going to get from me. David Kirkpatrick. The lack of creativity is a double whammy because Parker has a tendency to make it about him. The players need leadership. MC better whoop somebody. Love y'all. Go Irish. Why? I don't. Parker makes it about him. Where do we have proof of that?
I don't understand that.
He's very self-indulged. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
know.
not. I don't know. Maybe he's referring to like the way he calls plays. It's more about scheme, maybe. But yeah, I don't. Sorry, David. I'm not quite sure. I am following you on that one, but I appreciate the super chat.
Who's MC?
I think he meant MF. Marcus
Okay,
Freeman. That'd be my guess.
All right, fair enough. I'm good.
F is right on top. C is right below F.
That's true. I just didn't know if I was missing something. I was like, I was.
My
really
guess
racking
would be
my
he's talking
brain.
about Coach Freeman.
Awesome. Jade Allen, 33. This loss is so disappointing because it brings into question the competence of the staff. Freeman and the staff do not appear to be improving.
I think
That's a fair statement at this point.
That's fair.
And we talked about that at the top of the show.
That's the thing is if you just got out, if Louisville just played their butts off tonight, just outplayed you, you know what, man, tonight wasn't our night. Tip of the cap to you.
Right.
Mhm.
That's not really what happened.
That is not what
really
happened.
It was kind of in some areas what happened last week, but that's not what happened tonight.
Justin Herwick, Jared Parker can't stay in charge of the offense. Give the offense to Coach McCullough. So the only guy on offense that doesn't have OC.
I was going to say, has Thielen ever called a?
I don't
think you're
think
going to give it to. So that makes sense.
I mean, like one of the biggest mistakes tonight was a running back who, after the quarterback told him who to block, still went the wrong way.
Went to the right.
Like there's no coach tonight that's
right.
not getting criticism.
Correct.
For something other than, well, the one guy that whose position group played the best is the guy that everybody wants to get fired. It's Jared Parker.
That's true.
Holden Stace also made some plays tonight.
True statement. Caleb Collins, another super chat. The staff has wasted so much talent.
Okay.
I thought we were just not answering his, so I didn't say anything.
Look, he's still giving his money to us, so I at least want to thank him. But yes, I mean, I don't know what else you want us to say, man.
It's an event session, and I appreciate that.
Sure.
Washboy01, thanks. Excuse makers. ND played 3 ranked teams in a row at night. It's difficult. Me, what happens next year if ND makes the playoffs? Bingo.
I get it.
I wasn't sure where that was going, Washboy, but I'm on board.
Washboy, I don't want any silver linings right now, sir. I want to bask in this. All right, I want to bask in this disappointment.
I think that's kind of his point. Was like. By game 7, you're already worn out. What happens when you're playing games 13, 14, and 15? It's like, guys, it's October 7th.
Justin Herwick.
The sun will rise in the morning.
That's what they tell me. It's like the O staff doesn't like positive plays. They do something good, and then it's, oh, we can't do that. Let's run into a loaded box for 3 plays.
Well, and just some of that stuff, like, it is not, there is not a Ryan. Actually, let me ask you this, Vince. I'll ask you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is there a rule in college football that says when you get in 3rd and 2 or less, you have to put a lot of tight ends on the field, you have to go under center, and you have to run something quick? Is there like a rule that says you're not allowed to like spread it out, maybe try to create a crease for your 230-pound running back? Is there a
No
rule
rule.
that says you're not allowed to do
Last
that?
time I checked.
Okay.
I'm pretty
I
good
was
with
just
the
curious
rules,
about
too.
that. I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because it seems like they think there's a rule that says that.
And yes, and there's a rule to like holding up a sign while you're coming out of the huddle saying, "This is what we're going to run." It feels like that's what they're doing too. So, all right, David Kirkpatrick. Sorry. Yes, I meant Parker's scheming and Marcus Freeman's response. Thanks for translating.
You're welcome.
Thanks, David.
Relly Q, wide receivers are underperforming. O-line is underperforming. OC is underperforming. Total first half points, past 3 games combined, 17. Regression.
Look.
Are they incapable of changing the offensive identity or actually gaining one? What gives?
And 3 of those came after an interception gave you the ball at the 13-yard line, and another one of your touchdowns came after you had to fake a punt to even get down into scoring territory. So it's even worse than that.
Yep.
I feel like we've
great.
addressed a lot of that, guys, and
I think so, too.
he brings up a lot of good points. He's does.
Not wrong.
Really cute. I appreciate you. You're not wrong. There are a lot of
wrong,
guys
man.
right now. There's a lot when you get beat. Like, losing happens, it does. But when you get beat the way Notre Dame got beat, and it's a continuing pattern on one side of the ball, it's more than just wasn't your night.
Yeah,
it's more than that.
Matt, my sincerest condolences. I have to be serious on this. I'm sorry, Matt. My sincerest condolences, Vince. Praying for you and your family. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, you got a few of these, Vince. That
Okay.
Let's just kind of.
I gotta focus. Little guy 131. Can we send flowers for service? I'm very sorry for your loss, Vince. Thank you very much. I would assume so. I guess we could put the info out there once we get it.
My mom also asked me that too, Vince. So
I'll give you the info when we have it.
Appreciate it.
Relly Q. Hey Vince, this is for a beer on me. Cheers to your dad. Sorry for your loss, friend. He raised a good dude.
Yes,
Thank
he did.
you. I appreciate that.
That is the most true thing that was said tonight, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If y'all see the persona of Vince, but like this is really who he is. He's just it's a good dude, just a good dude.
That.
IB wouldn't be where it is today without Vince, and that is a fact. I think we brought this one up earlier, right?
We did. It's worth another bring up though, because
these are a bunch that kind of came up right after all that stuff, Vince. So Joel Motuk, thank you for that, man. He sent us a couple, so I appreciate you, man.
Sean O'Hara, another big super chat. Thank you very much, Sean. Let's give it up for IB and Vince, praying for your pops. We're all here because these guys love Notre Dame. We thank you and prayers.
Appreciate you, man.
My love for Notre Dame comes from my dad. So he used to take me to campus all the time, and we would walk around and, all that. And I've been told the story a million times that when we were walking around campus and I saw all the guys like outside and whatever. And I looked up at my dad and I was like, how come all these people wanted to leave their mom and dad? So that tells you how little I was when I was walking around campus, Yeah,
he was like 13.
Yeah. It was last week.
Senior high school. My mom always does that to me, Vince. She'll tell a story about something like I said that was silly. Like, so I'm going to tell you a very embarrassing family story. When I found out there was no Santa Claus, I went in my room. I drew a heart. What? When I found out there was no Santa Claus, Vince is this many days old. I went in my room. I drew a heart. I colored it in, and I came out in the living room crying, and I ripped it in half. It's my way of telling my family. A little dramatic. So, of course, when my mom tells me the story, she always tells me, like, he was like 14, he was 17. I was like, I wasn't.
Sean O'Hare with another big super chat. We have 5 running backs. How can we not convert on short yards? God bless you, Vince. God loves you. Enjoy this. Go Notre Dame.
Yes,
Because the offense is predictable and the offensive line is not playing well.
Got to have an
That's how
O-line
you
that
win.
can block first. Like,
Yeah.
that's usually key.
Yeah, run downhill with unprotected backside edges is usually not a good idea either.
Right.
Especially since you've had a high tendency of doing that a lot. I'm sorry, Vince. This isn't a super chat, but this is just
Whoa. What do you mean? Not Santa.
and there is, but my parents lied to me when I was a child and told me that he wasn't there.
That's messed up.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to have a word with your parents next time I see them.
I agree.
I'll wait till I eat their food though first because it's
There
really
you go.
good.
After the tailgate.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's after. Joe, thanks for the super chat. Question for all three. Do you guys honestly believe Notre Dame can be elite again? NIL I'm okay with. Academic standards I'm okay with. Missing on Ludwig when Freeman clearly wanted him, not okay with.
Well, to answer your first question, absolutely they can be. NIL has been a net gain for Notre Dame. I know fans don't.
Yes.
NIL has helped Notre Dame with recruiting and with the portal. It has. Can they be elite again? Yeah. Is it harder at Notre Dame? I've always said that. But the Ludwig thing, I mean, again, if it's just the OC, then sure, the Ludwig thing matters. But I still think there's a bigger problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Than just that.
Griff Wildler. This one hurts. Love you guys. Irish through.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
I get it, man. Sean O'Hara, line up too tight as a tell, obvious on TV.
Mm-hmm. They have a lot of tells.
They do. Sean O'Hara, my father-in-law Kevin is furious on the O-line. I hope he is well.
Mm-hmm. And he's not alone.
I hope he is well. That's
he
great.
is not alone.
We're all furious about that.
Yeah.
How about that, man?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm with you.
Griff, again, hope I can hug y'all next week at USC. I need it.
No, Griff, I don't hope that because I am playing you in fantasy football this week and I need to beat you. So I'm not hugging anything about you.
Wow.
Right now, so.
Ryan is being very selfish right now. Vince and I will be at the tailgate next week. We will gladly accept hugs. We appreciate that.
Hugs have been my kryptonite as of the last 3 to 4 days. And so
kind of cry every time you get one.
Every single time. Yeah, it's been rough, actually. I have no control over my emotions. I'm in a glass case of emotions. All right, Ryan, there was a 6-year-old fan next to me cheering, and he had the heart of 10,000 fans. I feel for him. That's been me for the last 30 years, and Notre Dame may never win it all.
Yeah, they will.
And I get where you're coming from, man. I get it. Notre Dame last won when I was 7. So
I think Ryan's a little on the younger side compared to like me and you, Vince. So I get it.
I hope it happens before I die. That's all I'm hoping for.
Oh, we all do.
It will.
Justin, conservative O doesn't win in today's game. Why would Coach Freeman think it can?
Great question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss it, but I just sometimes it's like I don't have an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Fat Fish just left the pub. Rough night. Got to shout out Jay Love tonight for running his tail off. But the offensive scheme was horrendous on 3rd down. And that's my biggest. Like many concerns, but 3rd down is one of my biggest.
And Jeremiah Love only ran the ball 5 times. And I agree, he ran his ball off. But,
2 carries on the second drive of the game, and only 3 the rest of the night.
Yep. And averaged like 7-point-something yards per carry. But
he did. Yep. Over 7. Sean Michael. Guys, thoughts on the admin not wanting winning football because the way the program runs and is constructed, it seems that's the case.
You can't ask this at 2:14 at night.
This requires a much deeper conversation, Sean. I think the administration wants to win. I just don't think the administration is willing to always do the things that are needed to win.
That's fair.
There's a difference between it's kind of like everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be healthy and be in shape and all that, but do you really want to do the things that are needed to do it? Well, in some people's case, no. You know what I mean? And so, the administration wants to win. Is the administration fully committed to winning the way that other programs are? No, they're not. But again, that's not why they lost tonight. Andy Ludwig not being the OC is not why they lost tonight. There are much bigger things going on right now than that. I know it's easy. Jared Parker's a very easy scapegoat.
Sure.
But there are a lot of things going on right now that need to get fixed.
Fat Fish, also that Marist face mask on third down was a backbreaker.
That was tough.
It was because they turned him over. I mean, they were going to punt. I mean, it was 100% a backbreaker. You were going to get the ball back.
I thought maybe he like came in on that tackle late and had a face mask. I was like, he's not even in the play.
Yeah.
It was a weird play.
Don't use
But he
somebody else's
did.
face
He
mask
grabbed the
to hold
guy's
yourself
face
up.
mask, though. It's stupid.
He totally did it. And he held on as he was falling, so it made it even more obvious. Like it was right in the direct eyesight of the official. Like, it's just 3 penalties. All three of them were game changers. That's the
I can't believe they only
committed
committed 3 penalties.
I know. And
just
when I brought up penalties in the show, I was like, oh, I got to go through all these penalties, and I'm like, wait, they only had 3. It just felt like so much more.
When you said 3, I was like, no. You mean on the offense only?
Yeah.
Just because all 3 mattered so much at the time it happens.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah. Huge.
100%.
Huge. Are you guys seeing this, by the way?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
USC game is what you're talking about? USC
Yeah.
Arizona?
Arizona's
Yeah.
up in overtime. 2-point conversion got broken up, though.
Oh,
Yes, it
terrible.
did.
Oh, if he leads them, it's a touchdown, or it's 2 points. Anyway, David Kirkpatrick. Sorry, yes, I meant Parker's scheming
sorry,
and
I brought
Marcus
that one up.
Freeman's response.
Sorry, that was
Sean O'Hara. Night, guys. Appreciate your dedication. Prayers, Vince. Estime runs wild next week on USC 35-7. He's already putting up. Wow. Okay.
35-7. You're to hold USC to 7 points. All right. Love it.
Yeah, never gonna
Like the
happen.
confidence.
Which USC are we talking
34?
about? Are they playing University of Santa Cruz next week or something like that? And that's not even a shot on Al Gold. I don't care how good of a defensive coordinator you are. You are not holding USC to 7 points.
Yeah, if you hold them to 7 points, something.
But
happened.
I like the enthusiasm, Sean.
I love it.
I dig
Especially
it.
tonight.
I dig it.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, sir.
good
I
for
dig
you,
it.
dude.
I like it.
Fat Fish, can we give a shout out to Maxwell, my older brother Justin? Maxwell is a bull terrier who passed away. See, I'm saying it all happy.
So sorry to hear that.
Maxwell is a bull terrier who passed away today. Always the most solid of doggos.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. We're dog people.
Yeah.
We are. So I'm really sorry to hear that, man. Man, what a week. What a week.
Bronx ND fan, does Marcus Freeman have the football aptitude to sit with Parker and demand different personnel usage and play creativity, or should we question his will to hold him accountable?
Well, again, does he have the football aptitude to do that? Yes. Marcus Freeman did not become the Notre Dame head football coach at the age of 36 because he lacks elite football aptitude. This is part of the learning process, right? Again, I think we need to stop assuming that Jared Parker's doing something that Marcus Freeman doesn't want. Does Marcus Freeman want better results? Yes, I'm sure he does. Does Marcus Freeman know exactly what his coordinators are doing going into games? Yes, he does. Right? I mean, that's a fact. Coach Freeman needs to be able to push the right buttons. There's no question. Coach Freeman's going to have to quickly, there's no long learning on the job process in Notre Dame, guys. You got to learn quickly. Learn whether you've been a head coach or not. There's no question he has the aptitude.
Yeah.
Is he willing to hold Jared Parker accountable? I would think so. But I think right now, and I say this as someone who is as big of a Marcus Freeman supporter as there is out there, the first person he needs to hold accountable, guys, is the man in the mirror. The first one. Honestly, because that's the best way he'll be able to lead this program out of this current little problem. That just because you hold yourself accountable doesn't mean you don't also fix this and fix that and fix this and fix that. It's not about you. But the best coaches are the ones that are going to look in the mirror and say, I didn't have this team ready to play. That is 1,000% on me. Screw yelling at my offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, D-line coach, O-line coach, whatever, corners coach, safeties coach, special teams guy. This is on me, right? I didn't have this team ready to play. How did I not know it? How did I not see it? What did I miss? He's going to have to figure those things out, and that's part of the learning process, guys. And so that's right now, Vince, that's who I'm most concerned with Marcus Freeman holding himself accountable. Because if he does, then those other things fall into place.
Correct.
Right? The coaching adjustments.
He's always done it in the past, and so I have confidence that that's the case.
Yeah. Right.
But we still got to see it.
Exactly. Well, fellas.
Is that it?
That's the end of the Super Chats.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the post game show. Again, I want to thank everybody, for me personally, for being there. And I feel those prayers. So I just want you guys to know that it's been a rough couple days. So thank you very much. This game didn't help. I can promise you that. And, but we can all suffer together on that one. And, it does make it, this is therapy for me. And I don't want to speak for you guys, but doing the show is therapy for me as well. Talking it out, knowing that I'm not the only one that is upset about this entire thing and the way the season is going and the way this particular game went. And so I appreciate you guys hanging on. We had over 1,000 people watching well into the wee hours of the morning here. So thank you guys for sticking it out. Thank you guys for hanging with us. Really appreciate it. I know you're going to be shocked. We have a whole week's worth of stuff coming at you guys. And so don't bail on us now, folks, because we got more.
Vince, remind people, just to remind everybody, since I'll be traveling back tomorrow, Vince and I will do our Upon Further Review on Monday. It might be part Louisville, Notre Dame, but it's also going to be some big picture stuff as well. But that'll be Monday because I'm going to be traveling today and tomorrow. And I think, Vince, you also need a day to just mentally recover.
Kind of plan things and get squared away. Let's put it that way. So, but anyway, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, the notification bell. Make sure you share with your family and friends. Go, even if you're a YouTube listener, go ahead and subscribe over on the podcast side. Just download them because you just never know when you want to pop one in. I had a buddy tell me the other day, he's like, I travel 45 minutes for work. He goes, I just love listening to IB in the car. He goes, you guys get me there fast. And I said, I appreciate that. I'm glad we could be along for the ride. So that's when I listen to my podcast as well. So guys, check it out. Really appreciate all the support and the love and the prayers and all of it. So for Ryan, for Brian, I'm Vince. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.